He's a mixed martial arts champion from London, Abid Patel. Congratulations. Oh, there, your mic. Oh.
Shout out to my beautiful daughter and my wonderful wife. Everyone loves your brownies. So, once upon a time, there was a head teacher called Shalvia. Every day, she had loads of issues with IT because she didn't have an IT strategy in place and she didn't have the expertise, and the financial pain that she suffers in school was what was blocking that. Until one day, she came to the awesome ITjustworks event where she met me. And it was at that event that we were able to drill down into her issues, her personal issues that she had in school. We were able to drill down in the issues of other people who came to that event. And then what happened was we were able to put together a personalized plan of what we could do to ensure that IT was much better for her school, so that the students could effectively use the IT, the staff could be empowered and invigorated with using the IT, and then she would be able to do that without all of the financial pain, and she would become a beacon of society, and that other schools would be able to look up to them. And then until finally we were able to put in a strategic plan of action where they got continual support, and that never went by the wayside. And then the great work continued to ensure that all of the pupils have the best possible IT for a successful future. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ITjustworks. It's so great to see everyone here. It's so great to see so many people. We've had hundreds of people signed up to the registration form, and it's been such an amazing experience and journey just getting to where we are today. And I'm so grateful for everyone and everyone's support. And I can't wait to take you on this journey with me. And it's going to be a great launch. We've got such an exciting launch party prepared, and let's take it away. So who's going to be joining us today? You've got myself. I'm the host, Abid Patel. I'm an IT director at the Leading Learning Trust. It's a multi-academy trust in London, and I'm the founder of ITjustworks. And then we're going to be joined by some great industry experts and EdTech champions. We've got Rachel, Daren, and Ben, who I'll introduce when they're ready to do their presentations, and they're going to be talking about their journeys and how they do digital transformation at their schools and their trusts and their districts. We've also got Peter Horner and Dave Leonard, who are fellow IT professionals like myself, and it's something that I always see and hear when I'm talking to others about what goes on in schools. Basically, it's a very lonely role, and it's really nice to hear from other IT professionals who are doing such great things. And then from the state side, we've got Stephanie Howell and Devon Rossiter. Stephanie's going to be talking about her journey at her district, and Devon, who's a fellow innovator and a fellow London 19 buddy of mine. He's going to be talking about his journey and also his project outside of EDU, which is a really nice and innovative solution that focuses on taking learning environments outside. I'd also like to thank our sponsors today on the show for helping to make put the show together, and they've kindly donated some really great prizes, which we'll talk more about. And I also want to thank Global GG. I've got such a huge and amazing team behind the scenes here, just doing lots and lots of great stuff, and they're really helping me, and they've helped me immensely as we've gone along. So onto the first speaker, which is the host, and that's me. And I guess I don't want to disappoint everyone out there. I said I'll keep it well behaved for this one, but just for all the fans out there, yes, it's me. It's the A, B, I, and the D, and yes, we'll end it there. I am Abid Patel. Like I said, I'm an IT director. I've been working in EdTech for 16 years now, over 16 years, and I'm the IT director at Multi Academy Trust, which is kind of like similar to what districts that you get in the States, and I look after 2 schools in the trust and lead on the IT strategy there. So EdJustworks. How did EdJustworks come about? And basically, it was a conversation that I had with Dean Stokes, who is the adoption lead for G Suite in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And at the BET Show, which is a technology trade show that happens in London every January, in 2019, January 2019, he said to me, Abid, have you considered applying for the Google Certified Innovator Program? And I looked at him and thought, no, that's not for me, is it? It's not something that I'm eligible to do or anything like that. And he said, nope, you know what? You need to go and apply. And so what the program asks you to do is it asks you to think of a challenge in education that needs solving. And then you work towards the academy. If you get selected, you go to the academy and then you work towards a solution. And when you do your application, you have to frame your challenge in a what you call a how might we statement. And my how might we statement was, how might we make digital transformation accessible to everyone, anywhere, and on any budget? And I was very grateful to have been accepted into the academy, which was for me London 19, and shout out to my London 19 family who have helped me immensely during this journey. And that's what we went and did in July of 2019. We went and worked on all of our individual solutions, but this was my challenge that we worked on, and then this is the solution that came out of it, like you saw in the intro video that we just had there. So that's kind of the sort of humble beginnings of EdJustworks and how it's sort of come about. So why EdJustworks and what is EdJustworks? So EdJustworks, as the design thinking and all of that happened at the academy, it grew into hosting an event that focused on digital strategy, digital transformation, and celebrated the digital transformation journeys that schools embarked on. Now, I think we've all learned quite that during the global pandemic, digital strategy and transformations kind of forcefully taken off in schools, and it's become even more apparent because of the fact that schools were physically shut down, shall we say, and people weren't able to children weren't able to go into school, and so on and so forth, and so everyone moved to a sort of online platform, as you can see today, and we're all very used to that now. But when I first thought of EdJustworks, it was all about digital strategy, digital transformation, and helping schools to understand why they needed it, because there was such a, IT moves at such a rapid pace. It's always going on and on and on and on. And what I found was my experience over the 16 years that I've been doing EdTech is IT just wasn't moving in education at the rate it needed to. We keep saying that we need to prepare our children for lives in the digital lives in the 21st century. Well, we're now 20 years into the 21st century. At what point do we start to prepare them for lives? And so that's why I wanted to bring together ITjustworks and sort of help everyone to understand why digital strategy and digital transformation is so important, and what the reason for the event as I've done it today, other than the fact that we can't do it in person, is I really want to showcase great examples of EdTech from the people who are doing it right at the front line. It's easy for a salesperson or someone to turn around and say, oh, by the way, here's my product and I want to sell this and it's just great and blah blah blah, and it's going to cost you this much thousands of pounds and stuff, and it's just how do we sort of get around that, and how do we help schools to understand what is the right information? And I think hearing it from the people who are doing it and having that impact on their children is what is really important. And there'll be an opportunity at some point to learn in the future from other industry experts and EdTech champions on how to start your own journeys and the key steps. And I know some of our great speakers today are going to talk about this. So we started off ITjustworks with a very soft launch on the 1st of July with a great Twitter chat, and it was overwhelmingly amazing. I had TweetDeck running on 3 different screens, and it was a 1-hour Twitter chat with 5 questions every 10 minutes, and the engagement was just on another level. It was just phenomenal. We had so many responses and things like that, and the engagement was great. And I've put the bit.ly there, which someone from the team is probably going to share out, and I've tried to capture as much of it as possible on a Wakelet, so you can go and relive that chat. And if you look, there is so much information. There's a wealth of information out there, and to help you all get inspired with starting your journey or taking your journey to the next level. It's really, really exciting, and it was a great chat that we did, and it was a great sort of soft launch that kind of really nicely led on to this. So the future of ITjustworks, what will come next once we've done that launch? So I'm hoping to bring together sort of breakout style support sessions, helping schools to discuss and develop their own digital strategies and start their own journeys. And we'll do a whole lot of stuff over things like we can use Meet and Zoom and other platforms to have sort of more collaborative sessions where we'll talk to other interested parties and really go from there. So it's really exciting journey that we're going to be starting, and this is hopefully going to be a 2.5 hour, just under 3 hour event, and I've got so many great speakers, but this is nothing compared to the amount of people that I could potentially have reached out to speak today. And I definitely in the next few events we will have loads and loads of speakers from all sorts of places, because there's so many interesting things to see. We want to see student impacts. We want to see in-depth technical breakdowns. I always say how lonely it is in schools, and we're all sort of trying to do the same thing from the prospect of delivering an IT perspective service at schools, but then we all do it sort of differently with different quirks, and it'd be nice to sort of bring that together and have like an almost global central database and understanding of how sort of a digital transformation and digital strategy in a box sort of thing. We also will in the future look at digital transformation in schools behind the scenes, the groups of staff that normally get forgotten, the administrative staff, the non-teaching staff, the people who are probably doing some of the most important things behind the scenes to help run the school and keep the day-to-day stuff going. And it's important to win these people over by having the by having a digital strategy around them and helping to support these people in schools as well, myself included. And then also change management. Change management is something that I hear from so many people. It's like, oh, you're so lucky that, you know, you've all got your leaderships on board and they're all happy to do this and try new things. My leaders don't want to know. And you know, you could rebel and you could go against them, but you know, that's not the way to do things. We need to take everyone together along on our journey. And I think one thing that I hope to do with ITjustworks is definitely look at how we can help to take leadership teams on board on these journeys and get these things started, because it is really, really important for everyone to see why digital transformation is so vital and so essential and needed in schools, especially with our budgets coming low and low and low, and then with the global pandemic hitting and that much uncertainty before we go back, that what are we going to do sort of try to do next. And we will definitely have more quickfire Twitter chats, as much as my overwhelmingness doesn't want to do that again. I've got such a great team behind the scenes who helped immensely through that Twitter chat, and we learned so much out of that Twitter chat. And it'll be so great to use that information to bring us to bring more and more exciting things going forward and learning, and it's so easy so quickly to get inspired in, you know, literally 280 characters, and it's 5 tweets in an hour. It's amazing how powerful the Twitter chats are. And then in-person events at locations all over the world. Yes, this should have been an in-person event, but something called COVID-19 happened, and hopefully at some point in the future we'll be able to go back to in-person events. And that's me really thinking 10x moonshot, big time thinking, because I've over the last year I've been able to grow such a huge global PLN, and everyone I speak to says, oh, you know, we really need this in the States, we really need this in Asia, we really need this in Australia, we really need this in the UK. And you know, everyone wants to see a sort of in-person event where we can really get down on the nitty-gritty and really tackle the issues sat around a table like we're used to, like that human interaction that we need, and hopefully going forward that will be a really, really great opportunity. And fingers crossed that won't be too long in the future. So with that said, I want to introduce my first guest, which is a very good friend of mine, Rachel Coathup. And she is the lead teacher technology for learning at the Leo Academies Trust. If any of you are aware of the Leo Academies Trust, they are an amazing trust doing such amazing things as an exemplar here in London. And Rachel, over to you to take it away.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm really excited to be here this afternoon to be sharing sort of our story at Leo Academy Trust. Next slide.
Sorry, Rachel, I forgot to say, did you want to share your screen?
Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, perfect. There we go. So a little bit about us at Leo Academy Trust. We are a primary MAT based in Surrey. We have six academies across 7 sites with 3,550 pupils. With about 415 staff, which encompasses one big digital strategy. And I think it's really important to mention that, and the importance of having an overarching digital strategy that covers that as well. It's really exciting that at Leo Academy Trust, one of our schools, Gene Common Junior Academy, is a Google reference school as well as a TFE EdTech demonstrator school. And we're also one of the top primary schools in the UK for our results, so the top 100 there. So it's a pretty exciting story to be able to be sharing with you this afternoon. So in terms of our trust-wide digital strategy, it was very much came about in the aspect of we wanted to be able to give a device and put that device into not only our staff but also our pupils' hands as well, that they'd be able to access anywhere. So that need for being able to work both remotely but also in the school as well. And that inclusive nature as well. So we wanted technology to be an enabler to our learning, not just a barrier. And it always comes back to that focus on the education that comes first before the tech does. And the ease of use. So being a primary only mat for us, it was very important to have a platform and tools that were easy to use. And, that was important for us from nursery all the way up until year 6 as well. And CPD. So implementing a digital strategy really is important to think about where staff CPD is held and the capacity for putting that in place as well. So in terms of sort of some of the challenges that we faced during this process, we very much had to sort of think about this and develop this. So it's important to note that our story didn't happen overnight. It's been a 3-year process that we've had to lead us up to this point. And it very much came from that aspect of having those conversations with finance, with our governors, with parents, and getting everyone on board to fully support the strategy and our move forward, as well as being able to move our server structures to the cloud as well. This was a big step for us to enable collaboration, allow teachers to be able to work from home, as well as being able to collaborate within their teams within the classroom as well. And then the direction. So where did we want to go during this? What was it going to take to actually get there as well? So in terms of sort of where our process started, and this very much shows that 3-year stage to our strategy, it was very much around getting our staff and moving all of their work to the cloud, as well as then developing our technology for learning. So what was that going to look like for our teachers? What changes did they need to make to enhance their learning for the pupils? And then also thinking about our devices and rolling out our one-to-one program. So come September, we will have all of our Key Stage 2 pupils with one-to-one Chromebooks. And that has been a combination of not only procuring our devices, but as well as the LGFL Bridge the Divide. That's very much enabled that ease of purchasing Chromebooks at a really cheap and affordable price. And also being able to, through LGFL, being able to convert our old machines through Neverware as well. So this has been a really helpful part in that strategic process of developing this. So in terms of those key factors that we needed to succeed for our strategy, we wanted to look at the ease of use for pupils. And this was why we chose Chromebooks, because we knew that they are so quick to boot up and very child-friendly in the interface as well. And then the technical management of it. So we wanted to be able to manage all of the devices, especially going one-to-one through a cloud-based admin console. This meant that it was able to reduce our technical support costs and brought also financial savings. So one of the big benefits of actually going one-to-one and developing our long-term strategy has meant that we've able to save as a trust almost £50,000 per year. So this has been a huge saving that's enabled us to actually continue to grow our one-to-one program as well. But also it's really important for us to think about the devices and as also the apps that our pupils were going to use, and also thinking about that access for our teachers to be able to use those as well to vary the learning experience. It's not just a matter of taking everything that happens in the classroom and putting it online. It is a matter of actually thinking, how are you going to change the learning experiences for the pupils? And cost as well is a huge factor for success. So being able to procure devices in bulk has meant that our one-to-one program has been more affordable for us as well. And the flexibility. So Chromebooks are extremely flexible. Being able to use a 360 degree device means that the Chromebooks can be flipped over and used as tablets with those touch screens as well. So it's just that ability to continue to adapt and use that device in different ways. And in terms of our adoption curve with anything, staff had to start somewhere. So we very much were starting small. So we thought about where is it that we actually want to take our educators to, and being able to have all of their work in the cloud meant that this was able to build up their confidence. They were able to start using it in small ways with communication with their teachers, but also thinking about the ways that they could actually use this. But we wanted to develop this first before they could actually start to think about those changes that they could make to the curriculum. And then it moved on to expanding the usage. So this was very much where we started to bring in some of those other EdTech tools, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later, as to being able to redefine our pedagogy and how we were actually going to develop teachers in terms of using that. And that final step in terms of the adoption curve is that influential pedagogical change. And this is very much where we're still trying to push all of our teachers to be able to reconsider the different ways that they structure their teaching and learning, so that it just is a very smooth workflow for pupils. And I wanted to bring in this graphic because it is important, whenever we talk about strategy, that there is a process with teacher confidence. And we've definitely seen this during lockdown in terms of teachers that maybe sort of started at that survival instinct prior to going in to actually really starting to master and show impact during this. And I think as for schools that are tuned in today, it is really important that we continue to think about this and drive forward to that innovation. But it is a process, and teachers don't just get to one point overnight. It's very much about supporting and increasing that confidence and competence as well. So for us during distance learning, we very much had to flip the way that we structured CPD, and we wanted to offer new opportunities for our staff. And one of the things that came through was that we wanted to empower our teachers to be able to use different tech tools to be able to support learning that was just happening online. So this was something that we needed to think about, but it also meant that for us as a trust, we were able to train up a far greater number of staff. A lot of our CPD that was taking place on site before lockdown was actually very low attended numbers. It was always after school, 4 o'clock. We've all been in those meetings before. And actually, from our online webinars and trainings that we did, this actually started to grow and progress the use of the EdTech tools. And teachers were really keen and excited to get going with this. And this was all just something that they had plenty of opportunities to pick and choose which ones they would like to actually continue to grow and learn about. And I think for us, it is really important that we do continue to upskill and train our staff. So this has been very much a process of that Google beginner, so really getting them started from those initial steps to using Google for Education, but also then moving into their level 1 and level 2, so stepping it up and then going that next level. And that's really where we start to see our teachers starting to use G Suite tools for creativity and innovative and meaningful application of technology. And then we've also been training up some of our teachers as well to be Google certified trainers as well. And this then just continues to allow that in-school training to take place, so that it's not just coming from an external provider, but actually that our teachers are confident to be able to deliver that training. And I wanted to put this in because for us, we have embraced a lot of technology, not only prior to going into lockdown and in terms of our wider digital strategy as well, but it's important to remember that whatever tools you're using, that you are thinking creatively about their application in terms of your wider strategy as well. So for us, we wanted to allow pupils to be able to collaborate and be creative, but also to allow teachers to continue to assess pupil learning through different platforms, as well as being able to deliver work out as well. So that's been very much through Seesaw and Google Classroom, and then through Text Help, we've very much been able to allow that inclusive approach. And that's also part of Chromebooks as well. And one of the reasons that we chose Chromebooks is the range of accessibility options that are built into there. So in terms of, that upskilling and staff progression, I wanted to just bring up sort of my Google Educator Innovator Project Badge Tech. And the reason for this is that this has been one thing that we've seen during distance learning, is that a lot of our teachers have wanted to upskill. They've wanted to learn how to use new tools. And I think this is a great way for teachers to be able to learn how to use a new tech tool that doesn't just come from one teacher sitting there and creating a training session, but actually that they can use the power of these tech tools and also then be able to sort of walk away with a credential that they can put on sort of their email signature or onto their CV as well. And it's just that continual learning. There's always something new to learn. So I just wanted to sort of highlight, distance learning has shifted our pupils really forward in terms of their application and also their choosing of how they're going to demonstrate their learning. And that's been a big highlight for us, is being able to see sort of them think, oh, okay, here's the task for today, but actually changing and rethinking the way that they're going to apply that learning. And in terms of sort of what this looks like then on a classroom level, planning and preparation, always used to sort of look like that aspect of sitting there and photocopying lots and lots of papers. But actually now we have that aspect of we don't rely on our photocopier, because we can easily push these through in Google Classroom, and then teachers can actually give that feedback as well. But also that collaborative aspect that you miss when you aren't collaborating online. And assessment. So assessment has changed a lot for us, and just going from that aspect of simply marking and assessing on paper to actually being able to walk away from either a Nearpod lesson for pupil engagement or a Kahoot or a Google Forms quiz, where actually you get that live data back as soon as pupils complete a task. So you no longer need to wait until you've had 30 pupils complete the task to check and see their understanding, but actually you've got that live data that's coming through, which means that as teachers, we can continue to refine and adapt our lesson as we go through. And I think this is one thing that is so important for schools that maybe haven't quite adopted their digital strategy yet, is to actually think about that meaningful assessment data and the impact that that has on our learners in the classroom. Even things like our spelling test. So during distance learning, we needed to think of a creative way to be able to do that. So for us, it was using Google Jamboard, being able to pop those up and getting them to think about how they could do that as well. And then Flipgrid has very much been a way for us to sort of refocus a writing task. So getting pupils to take it, the same task that we were doing in the classroom, but actually getting them to then record a video to actually say their application. So for this one, it was writing an application to become a secret agent. But what was really nice about this is that it actually empowered a lot of our pupils to really embrace that opportunity to share, who, maybe in the classroom might be really hesitant or not confident to share. This actually gives them that power to stop, record, and go back and refine as they film as well. And this has been exactly the same in terms of a book review. So there's one just sort of playing in that bottom right corner, and this was just created using Adobe Spark. And it's a nice way for our pupils to actually go from just simply doing a paper book review to actually being able to meaningfully apply this using technology, but also being able to narrate this. So pupils then don't have to just sit there and type everything out. They can actually just simply record their voice. So it makes it more accessible for all learners as well. And in terms of, how the technology has changed in terms of the science, I often talk to teachers as part of the demo program, and they ask, well, what would that look like in a science lesson? And I think, being able to use Google Expeditions to explore virtual reality has been a huge aspect for us to allow pupils to not only go through and explore it and look inside, it just makes it that more interactive experience for them as well. And in terms of our sort of wider Chromebook strategy, that hasn't sort of come about just through, the Chromebook accessibility settings make it really easy for all of our pupils, not just those with inclusion needs, but everyone, because they're able to have instructions read aloud to them. They're able to use voice to text to actually have that, as well as the text help features that just allow those screen overlays and being able to use those picture dictionaries to support that learning as well. And collaboration. So collaboration is so important. And during distance learning, we've very much seen our pupils use Google Classroom to be able to learn from one another and also to create little videos to help each other during this process. So I want to finish with this sort of little analogy about the swimming pool. And some of you may have heard of the SAMR model before: substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And it's very important to remember that, a lot of people think of that as a sort of upward climb. But actually, if we think about it in a swimming pool and also in terms of our digital strategy, we always start at that shallow end, and even if we do dive deep into the deep end of a swimming pool, even a good swimmer won't always stay there forever. They will always head out and come back. So it's important to remember that whilst you're thinking about where do I start with allowing a digital strategy to evolve within my school, I would always say start small, but start. It's better to start somewhere than sort of lead and get lost. So start small, but start is the most important thing that I want to leave you with. And just to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That was really great to see just how the digital tools there can just have such a positive impact in the classroom, and how you guys have all brought it all together at the Leo Academies Trust. One thing that you touched upon very ever so slightly, and I forgot to mention, is so one of our sponsors is the Education Foundation, and they run the EdTech demonstrator program here in the UK. And I know that you've been doing some stuff with that program through the Academies Trust. Is there anything you wanted to mention about that?
Yeah, so one of the, for schools around the UK, so depending on where you're joining from, if you're a school or a college within the UK, then I would definitely recommend signing up for the EdTech Demonstrator Program. What this allows you to do as a school is to partner with a school that has gone through this journey, has gone through those challenges, those problems that come about from developing a digital strategy. But also being able to take away some quick wins, the strategic process in terms of training and what things you can do to put in place. So I think this is a very good place to start for schools that are very new or maybe sort of have got going but don't know where to go next. So they might have put something in place during distance learning and are thinking, how can we progress from what we've done so far?
And I think what's been great, I was at a EdTech demonstrator program just a couple of weeks ago presenting, and because it was all online, it's now open to schools globally. So it's not just, it's one of the few positives we've seen through COVID-19, the fact that we've started to move everything online, the fact that we're now almost borderless. We're not affected by that geographical aspect of having to be in person, which is really, really powerful and helpful. There was one question there I just wanted to touch on before I bring on our next guests, from Joe Valver, who was saying, when it came to using digital tools, were staff limited to approved applications, or were teachers able to use any applications or tools, and how did you support all of those tools?
So I think it is very key when you're sort of working either within your school or in a trust, is to think about the different tools that you're going to use. And for us, sort of moving forward, we very much wanted to have a package that we put out to schools to actually be able to sort of provide ongoing support. But often what we also saw was that a lot of the schools can get lost in, oh, there's a new one for quizzes, there's a new one for assessing. And actually you end up having, 1,000 different subscriptions and paying lots and lots of money, but not actually having a consistent approach, or actually utilizing those tools that you do have. So for us, we've very much been able to sort of think about which tools we want to use and how we progress through and training up staff to use those adequately.
And I think that really hits on where the digital strategy is really, really important, because I've experienced in the past so much where as a technician you come in and it's like, oh, can you please install this, and can you install that, or can you buy this, and I've just bought this, and then it doesn't work with your networks and you don't know how to, and your staff don't know how to use it, and then it just becomes a case of wasted money. And I think that really, really heavily outlines why digital strategy is really, really important. But thank you ever so much, Rachel. That was really great, and the feedback in the chat has been amazing, and I'm fully aware that everyone knows how much of a superstar you are, and have been over the COVID-19 pandemic online. So keep doing everything you're doing, and great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Abid.
Cool. Right. Next up, we have the dynamic duo of Daren and Ben, who come from New Rickstones and Maltings Academy, which is part of the AET Trust. So I am going to bring on Daren and Ben. There you go. And I'll leave it to you guys to take it away.
I'm so glad you said dynamic duo, because I very nearly wore my Robin costume. Yeah. I got talked out of it by Ben in the pre-show meeting, so got away with that one.
I had to do it, guys. I had to do it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, everyone. As some of you will know the two of us already, but my name's Daren White, and I'm Learning Technologies lead, but also marketing and GDPR lead for two academies in Whittam in Essex. New Rickstones and Maltings Academy, which is part of the Academies Enterprise Trust. And across the country, we have 58 schools, secondary, primary, and special as well. And Ben, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Daren. So anyone that doesn't know me already, I'm Ben Moore. I'm an associate teacher, lettings and health and safety coordinator for the same two academies, so New Rickstones and Maltings Academy in Essex in the UK as well. And it's being part of this the AET, the same as Daren. It's been great to see all of our schools during this COVID-19 pandemic excel in the way they have, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes.
Absolutely. And the reason we're on together, apart from the fact that we do work together and we present short and sweet together, but also we've got probably quite different journeys to a lot of other people. Similar sorts of ideals to what Rachel's just been talking about, but different probably paths to get in there. So to give you a bit of context, the Academies Enterprise Trust actually started in 2008, and originally it was 3 schools, which was Maltings Academy, New Rickstones Academy, and Greensboard Academy, all in Essex. And the trust grew exponentially very, very quickly. So we had to be able to work collaboratively and effectively across the large part of the UK. And I was very fortunate at the time. I was a senior leader. I was on the senior leadership team. I was head of sixth form at the time. And our boss at the time, John Shinell, who's a national leader of education, sent a group of us up to ESSA Academy in Barton to visit a wonderful gentleman called Abdul Chauhan, who you probably will have heard of. And amongst those people were our current head and our current boss, Damien Lee, Richard Sparks, who was part of the Sweden 19 cohort and is in charge of learning technologies for the whole trust, and a chap called Dean Stokes as well, who you might have heard of, who I used to share an office with. So I don't have an IT background at all. I'm a language teacher. In fact, when I was at school, I was talked out of doing IT because my teachers said it probably was a bit of a flash in the pan and wouldn't last. So I decided to focus on languages instead. So there you go. Don't listen to everything you're told. So I don't have an IT background. I am just quite happy to click things. And that is really me. I don't mind clicking stuff and seeing what happened because I don't really have much of a concept of what could go wrong. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the same. You know, I'm sort of the opinion, try it. You know, if it doesn't work one way, we'll try it another way. You know, we'll find a way that does work. So, you know, very, very similar to you there. Try things. You know, if it doesn't work, we'll find a way that it does work. So, you know, second what you say there, really.
Absolutely. And, you know, as the trust grew, the schools itself had a lot of obstacles to overcome. Both schools in Whittam struggled for a period of time with numbers because of low pupil numbers in the area. And obviously that had a massive impact on budget, which puts huge restraints, just like COVID-19 has. So we had to be very innovative. So from the point of view of getting started with G Suite, that's all thanks to Dean, who was fantastic. And from sharing an office with him, I picked up just from being in the same room and listening in on calls and kind of testing things, and him saying, "Oh, this has just come out, give it a go, install this and see how that works." I kind of developed my interest from there. And because I was on the senior team at the time, I was able to look at things from the strategic process. Dean was able to look at things from the innovative progress, and our other colleague, Jim, who's our systems manager, was able to look at things from a systems perspective. So the three of us in an office together really were able to develop that digital strategy within our schools. And obviously then we had the support of Richard and the trust as well to be able to push that out further. And much like Rachel's story with Leo, the biggest thing for us was cost savings, and the ability to be able to replace systems that we were paying a lot of money for that really weren't doing the job that we wanted them to be doing, or were so complicated that it was putting teachers off of technology and being counterproductive, to being able to replace them with very simple systems that cut back a huge amount of printing, enabled us to make things far more accessible, enabled us to listen to teachers more, and instead of getting to the end of life on a IT suite and refitting it, actually listening to what teachers were saying about loading times and roaming profiles and everything else, and actually making the decision to say, well, let's look at Chromebooks and let's not just do what we've always done because that's what we've always done. And I think that's really important that, we invested in things like Chromebooks and Neverware to replace and to extend a life where otherwise things might have fallen by the wayside. So that's been really important from that point of view. And then drip feeding in, driven by the SLT and the admin team. And I think it's important that we clarify, when I talk about the admin team, I don't mean from a US perspective in terms of the administrators of the school. I'm talking about the school support staff, the admin team that do all the administration, the typing of the letters, the receiving the phone calls, working reception, doing all of the finance and everything like that. Dean in particular, and then I followed it on, made a concerted effort to invest in that team of people in terms of training and making them feel accomplished and comfortable with G Suite. Because our way of looking at it was, if the people in the office are pushing everything out using G Suite, then teachers have got no choice but to use it, because if they want to feel at parents' evening, they're going to have to fill out a Google form. If they want to complete their appraisal, they're going to have to use Google Classroom, because we developed a Google Classroom way of doing that. So we pushed it out that way and got teachers used to using it, by being the student end first. And we've continued to do that. And amongst with that, we've also then had elements of personal choice within our PD that's allowed people to go and develop their own skills. Now, Ben, you've seen it from a whole different perspective, because when we first started going through this change, you were a student, weren't you?
I was, yeah. So I mean, Daren actually taught me at school, as some of you know already. So he's not as old as he looks, honest. But he did teach me when I was at school. And when we first started our G Suite journey, you know, I must have been in year 8, well, maximum year 8, I suppose. So I was quite young, and actually I had Dean teaching me media as well. So, you know, I've seen how the school first started when I was there, using all the Windows and Microsoft, you know, bits and pieces to switch over to G Suite across my years as a student. And moving further from that now, I've been working at the schools here for 4 years now. And we've continued that journey, you know, excelling every year in the innovative stages of using G Suite for different aspects of the you know, of the education life. And it's not just, for me, again, it's not just about being in the classroom and doing things with teachers as well. It's more about, or not more about, but, you know, I do a lot of things with the admin staff as well. You know, working alongside the facilities team, for example. As you can see, I've got a very messy office behind me, so I'm definitely in a site office. So, you know, I do a lot of things with them in regards to the G Suite process as well. So it's important to consider, you know, the teaching benefits and the benefits on the end user of the student as well. But going from a staff point of view, if you get all your admin staff on board, like Daren was saying, you know, it really is a snowball effect from there, isn't it, really? You know, once you get one on board and someone starts doing it, you know, you point out that member of staff, you say, oh, well done, that's brilliant, you know, you're using that in a great way. And then someone else is like, oh, if they've done it, I can do it. And it sort of just moves on from there. And it's, you know, it's been great to see over the years some of the staff that may be quite reluctant, you know, even staff that taught me at school that were reluctant to move over to G Suite and Chromebooks and stuff like that. And now, you know, using it so well and using it in such creative and great ways that it's just inspiring for me to see how much they've changed over such a short period of time, really.
And I think that's what's been really helpful, is that we've used things, as we said, from the admin perspective, push them out, not teaching and learning related, but then we've been asking the question, as we've been going around in one-to-one conversations, can you see how that could be applied in a classroom situation or in a learning situation? And that's encouraged staff to kind of go away and think about it. And obviously COVID's had a massive impact in terms of accelerating everything. And we put together a Google Classroom full of self-paced videos and resources for staff, and it's been hugely successful. And that's really off the back of an initiative from the Trust, who called together a team of innovators, but with AET in it, so innovators, who came from all of the schools. Every school was asked to put forward innovators, and there's a team of us led by Richard and Dave Draper, who was London 19, I think, and we have been supporting across the whole Trust in terms of providing training for staff, and then the curriculum team have also been involved with us in terms of training staff in delivering live lessons. And then after that, we've then gone into, like Rachel was saying, moving on to training schools as part of the EdTech demonstrator program. And it's been incredibly fulfilling, I have to say, and really encouraging to see how open everybody is to the ability to be able to work collaboratively. And I think, for me, the most important thing that needs to come out of this, the worst thing I hate hearing, is when we return to normal, because I don't think there is a normal. Okay, and if we go back to what things were like prior to COVID, I think that's the worst thing in the world, because that wasn't working. For me, we've got to redefine what school and what education is, and that's, you know, so often that's determined by the building and the classroom sizes and then the size of the corridors and what equipment we've got in that building and the number of staff we've got and what days they're available to be in school. And actually that no longer needs to happen. It might have to happen in some form, but I think we've got to look to move to a more flexible hybrid way of delivering teaching that's not only more sustainable for schools in terms of budgets, but also more engaging for students. As Rachel was saying, and I've had the same experience, a lot of students have absolutely flourished from online learning because they've now got a chance to speak where maybe they wouldn't have done in front of others. Yes, others haven't found it so easy, and that's the bridge that we've got to overcome. But also from the point of view of moving things forward, we can't continue to sustain a teaching workforce with the amount of work that people are having to do. We've got to find a way to make it more appealing. And actually, if you can be more flexible, if you can work from home some of the time, then actually will we retain more teachers? Will we encourage more teachers to join the profession? And will that bring in a whole new group of ideas as well? Because, you know, there were a lot of people who are getting to the stage where they're like, oh, I've had enough of teaching. And actually, for me personally, things like this come along, it just reinvigorates because it gives you a whole new challenge. But not everyone's like that. And it's how we bridge that gap for people and bring them on board so that they feel that it's achievable, that they feel they can do it. And Ben, like you were saying, you know, people who taught you, who were quite resistant or reluctant to use technology, are now embracing that. And I think the ability and the fortunate thing that we've had in our schools is that our school leaders, our SLT, have been very, very happy to support developing themselves.
I agree.
So they were very happy to support me going through my level 1, my level 2, and my Google training. And they're happy to allow me to go out and train other people, as long as there's some form of buyback, as long as, you know, I also provide something for the school or that other school provides something for our school, so that, you know, it's not to the detriment. And obviously as well, been really supportive with yourself, Ben. Yeah,
that's it. So, you know, I've just recently done, you know, all of my level 1, 2 and trainer as well this year. So the school's been very supportive in that, and you know, allowing me to go off and take part in these PD programs and do very similar things to what Daren's done, and that's what's led us into being, you know, part of GEG UK and global GEG as well, and being able to then train people across the world and other people in the country. So it very much ties in with the EdTech demonstrator program that we're a part of as a trust as well. But it's all tied in, you know, everything's tied in with GEG UK and global GEG, and it's just it's a great opportunity, and I think COVID has, you know, it's a very bad thing, but having stuff like this happen out of, you know, global GEG and GEG UK doing some of the stuff we've done and the EdTech demonstrator program, you know, this has all come out of COVID. So this is a positive side of COVID. You know, something that's positive that's come out of it, and I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it and to work for, you know, for these 2 amazing schools that really do support staff to develop themselves and embrace the new opportunities to, you know, to have that impact on the end user, being the student. You know, it's what it's all about, you know, making sure the student gets the best opportunities that they can, and that's through, you know, through great leadership and allowing us to develop as teachers and as educators.
Absolutely. And, you know, that the 10x thinking, so important, and being prepared to fail. And I've always been fortunate that I've worked with bosses who've always been very much, we'll try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll do something else. But let's try it. As Rachel said, you know, let's just start. Let's get something going. But for me, the key thing really is, you know, we've been able to do so much that we wouldn't have been able to sustain if we hadn't have been working the way we're working. You know, the budget cuts, staff departures and things like that, which happen. The challenges with the student numbers, we wouldn't have been able to sustain what we've been able to sustain, but for being able to work with not just G Suite, but other collaborative tools as well that work hand in hand with it. And the thing I would say is, you know, we're all living and breathing being lifelong learners. I've learned things from Ben, Ben's learned things from me, we've learned from each other at Global GEG and GEG UK, and we learn from each other in school as well. Nobody's at the top of the tree. We can all learn different ways of doing things, and there's lots of different ways, 10 different ways of doing everything. And I think schools need to embrace that it's not about being kind of like the font of all knowledge, but being prepared to go and try it. And that's where I will just say, having become a trainer, getting my own domain enabled me to play with things. It enabled me to try things. Coming back to Joe's question from earlier about data protection and allowing apps and all that kind of thing, it enabled me to try things out with friends and with other people. I even tried it out with a beer festival that I run. We ran all of that off of G Suite, just to see how it worked before I then put it in front of SLT, so I could give them a concrete example. This is what this will do, and this is what we will gain from it, and here's the impact of that, and it's reliable. But more importantly, and I must give a shout out to a lovely lady called Sue Wright at New Rickstones, who's the head PA and has just managed 30 years at the school. But as she likes to say, the most important thing is KISS. Keep it short and simple. And
I agree. What a lady as well. What a lady.
That's brilliant, guys. It's really, really great to hear. And I think it was really important to hear the story from you both, especially not coming from an IT background or not computing teachers per se, and especially yourself, Ben. I really wanted to hear, as you've gone through both ends of the scale. Some of us are getting on in the years, shall we say? So IT wasn't as prevalent as it is now, and EdTech, and I think you've come into the education industry at that sort of peak point, having used it quite recently as a student, and now using it to deliver as a teacher. And Daren, what you said about just getting there and trying it, I think that's so important, because as an IT professional, I've not had very many paid training sessions ever, and everything I've learned has literally been trial and error. Just go for broke and then see how it goes, really. And I think that's really, really important to do. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and really great to hear your stories. And thank you very much. And definitely follow us, join GEG UK by going to that link there, bit.ly/geg-uk, and then join Global GEG. There's loads and loads of exciting and inspirational things happening on there. Like Ben mentioned, and definitely watch Short and Sweet on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock here on YouTube.
Especially this Thursday.
Yes.
Really good one.
You don't want to miss it.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers,
Abid.
Cheers. Take care.
Cool. So that brings us on to our first prize giveaway. Quite simple. First, I want to thank EduGeek for this really generous prize giveaway, and I want to give a shout out to EduGeek, because they have been a huge help and support to me in my career. EduGeek is a site for IT professionals, made by IT professionals, and it's basically where techies like myself and Peter and Dave, who's coming along soon, basically talk about how IT happens in schools, and sharing the knowledge and sharing experiences, and it's almost a really free database and community of support, and for anyone, even teachers trying to do IT in schools, if you ever come up against a problem, head on over to the EduGeek website. You will find so many useful conversations and resources out there on how to get over the particular problem. But in order to this prize giveaway, head on over to Twitter and follow ITjustworks, follow my account, Abid_Patel, and follow EduGeek. And then there'll be a feedback form at the end of the show. And we really value all of your feedback. And then once you've followed all those accounts and filled out that form, you'll be eligible for the prize draw. And I think we've got some EduGeek hoodies and tops, and maybe a goodie bag as well to give away. So please definitely go on over and get signed up. And with that, I'm going to introduce Peter Horner, who is the IT manager and digital learning lead at Barton Peveril Sixth Form College. And I really wanted Peter to come on today, not just because he's a fellow IT professional, but because I wanted him to share his story from a further education perspective, because I hear so many people that I speak to say that, we've got challenges in further education which are even crazier than are in schools, and Peter's been doing some great things at Barton Peveril, who were recently awarded the EduFuturist Best College of the Year, I think it was.
That's right, Abid, that's right.
Yeah.
We're very happy about that. Great way to end the term.
Yeah. So Peter, take it away.
Thank you, Abid. Hi, so yeah, as Abid just said, I'm Peter Horner, and I am the IT manager and digital learning lead at Barton Peveril Sixth Form College. Now, our college is located in the south of England, of the UK, and we are a sixth form college. So that means we're teaching 16 to 18-year-olds. We have about just over 3,500 full-time students at our college, and we deliver a wide range of A-levels and vocational qualifications. As Abid just mentioned, we recently won the EduFuturist College of the Year award, which has made our staff very happy. So they've put a huge amount of effort into making distance learning work. And we've also been shortlisted for the TES award for outstanding use of technology, which hopefully we'll hear about later this year. In addition to that, we're also a Google reference school, which has been a great way for us to connect with and share what we've learned about Google with many other schools and colleges across the country. In terms of our digital environment, we have, I've got some big numbers here to share with you. So we have about 4,000 active users on G Suite for Education. So that's teachers, learners, support staff who are all using Google for Education in their normal way of working. So that means they're using Gmail for communication. Our teachers using Gmail they're using Google Classroom to share work with students and to communicate with their classes. And we're all taking advantage of the unlimited space we get on Google Drive. We have over 100 terabytes now stored up in Google's cloud. In terms of devices, we have 1,400 Chromebooks, which has now actually overtaken the number of Windows and Apple devices we have in college. We like Chromebooks because they're very fast. They've given our learners greater access to digital resources and given us the flexibility we need now. But we do still have Windows and Apple devices as well. And these are located in our specialist IT rooms. So rooms in computer science or art or media, which need specialist software like Adobe Creative Cloud or Sibelius and Logic. So they're still really important part of what we're doing. And we've also invested heavily in our Wi-Fi and internet connectivity over the last few years. So now we see in excess of 5,000 personal mobile devices connected to our college Wi-Fi every single day. But 5 years ago, when I first got promoted to IT manager, things were very different. We had quite a number of challenges to overcome. In terms of funding, that was at an all-time low, and we're continuously being asked to do more with less. And that's still very true in education. In terms of IT, I'd say IT was just seen as a necessary evil. We were just there to make sure the computers and projectors worked. And I don't think we were being used to our full potential, really. We had an outdated IT strategy, which just amounted to, okay, we're going to spend this amount of money on new devices this year. We're going to keep on uploading more resources to our virtual learning environment, which was Moodle at the time. And we kind of measured its success in how many gigabytes of learning resources we had, which wasn't, well, it's not really the best way of doing things, is it? We mainly had static PCs and Macs in IT classrooms. So if a class wanted to go and do something on the computers, they had to get up and leave their classroom and go to the IT room, which is just such an old-fashioned way of doing things now. We were mainly using local applications, and we had limited server storage. So invariably, students would end up using a USB key instead to store their work, which, as we know, is not the best way of storing things and is likely to get lost. And not helping things, our network hardware and servers weren't the most reliable. So most of our time was spent just keeping the network working, rather than doing more of what we could be doing. So now I just wanted to tell you a bit about our digital transformation journey. It all started at the very end of 2014. I'd recently just become the IT manager, and I was having a conversation with our director of humanities, and he had heard of a new product which he was interested in trying called Google Classroom, which had just been launched earlier that year. Now at that point, I'm sort of embarrassed to say, I didn't actually know too much about Google for Education, or Google Apps for Education as it's then called. I think I'd seen a presentation on it once at another college, but I remember thinking to myself, what do we want to do that for? We've got an email system, we've got Microsoft Office, we've got lots of PCs. What do we need Google for Education for? So I didn't really get it to begin with. But after talking to him and seeing how excited he was about its potential, I thought, well, okay, let's go and investigate this a bit further. So I went away, did my research, and quickly thereafter I thought, well, actually this has got a lot of potential. So I quickly set up our college Google domain and synced up all of our users onto Google for Education. So by the end of that week, although not everyone knew it at that point, every member of college had a Google account. And I was pleasantly surprised by how easy it was to deploy this. It only took me, I think, just a few hours one evening, which was a pleasant surprise, because when you think moving to a cloud, this is going to take a whole new skill set, which I don't have yet. But in actual fact, doing some things in the cloud is actually very, very easy. So we launched this pilot, and I also had learned about Chromebooks in my research. So I ordered them a set of 12 Chromebooks to try out as well at the same time. And this was an overwhelming success, and it quickly spread throughout the rest of college. So by the next year, we had several hundred Chromebooks and lots of departments asking to use Google Classroom in their lessons. The following year, we finally got round to writing our digital strategy, which I'll share a bit of in just a moment. Then we also started spending more of our time doing training. So we dedicated several whole college inset days to digital learning training, looking at things like how to implement flipped learning and how to use Google Classroom and Chromebooks in lessons. And this actually served as a good opportunity to raise my team's profile as well, because in the meantime, my team had all trained up to be Google certified educators. So we'd done their level 1 and 2, and they were able to get involved in training. And this helped change my team's image from just being the tech support to being the team you go to who can help you implement EdTech in the classroom. And during this time, I also took on responsibility for digital learning in the college. And as part of his role, I also set up our DigiGurus. So these were student and staff representatives from every department, and their role is to help and support their peers and colleagues in implementing EdTech to benefit learning. And that's been really successful. In terms of creating a digital strategy, we started this in 2016. So we threw away our old strategy as it wasn't fit for purpose. And we started again. And I think it's really important to involve as many people as you can when you're writing your strategy. So we talked to teachers, we talked to students, SLT, of course, were involved, as well as IT services, but we also involved support services. So departments like our learning support department and our library. And we also had external input from GISC, who are a not-for-profit organisation who support colleges and universities in their internet connectivity and digital access to resources. And some of the main points we came up with in our strategy, which we were passionate about, are we wanted to facilitate learning inside and outside the classroom. So we wanted to investigate new technologies to support flipped and blended learning methods, which I think we can say now has really paid off, because we were able to really smoothly transition into distance learning and make that work really well for our learners. We wanted to be cloud first and web first. So by that, what I mean is whenever we thought about implementing a new system, we would look to the cloud first of all. Or if that wasn't feasible, we'd at least make sure it's web friendly so that it is device agnostic, so it could work on any device, whether it's a Chromebook or a desktop PC or someone's personal device. By putting it in the web browser, we're able to make sure it works anywhere, on any location and any time, hopefully. We also prioritized investing in our digital environment and investing in our teaching staff and support staff skills. We wanted to ensure we had the best infrastructure available, so we invested heavily in our Wi-Fi, in our internet connectivity, and we're continuing to invest in our traditional server infrastructure as well, as we still need some servers running inside college. And during this time, my team shifted from being perceived as the gatekeepers or sometimes the blockers of technology for learning. And we ended up turning into the EdTech enablers. This didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work to change that perception of IT. And we did this through a few different things, which I'll go through over the next couple of slides. Back when I did my master's degree, I took a course in user experience design, which I found really interesting. And what I realized was this doesn't just apply for designing websites or apps. It applies to everything that we do. So if this changed kind of our whole outlook on the services we're providing for our users, we wanted to prioritize the user experience above all other things to make sure it's really easy to use and it achieves everything we set out in our strategy. And by doing this, and by making things really easy to use, we actually saw a drop in our help desk cases and in the problems users experienced. So that this helped free up our time to spend time on new and exciting things. We wanted to be more flexible and adapt positively to change, and not necessarily to be told this is the direction we're going. We wanted to help be part of setting that strategy of direction where we're going, and not say no to new things, but say yes, and this is how you could do it, rather than just saying no. And we also, I think it's really important to shout about the good work you do. I think all too often in IT, a lot of our work is in the background, updating servers, making sure systems are secure and setting up new things. And teachers, leadership and learners aren't always aware of all these things going on in the background. So one of the other things I did was I created our first IT blog. And this is a space where we could tell people about the projects we were working on, tell people about the latest updates, and provide solutions to the common problems people experienced. And this done a lot in helping people understand more of what we do in IT services. In terms of our transformation in IT, I'd say taking a cloud-first approach and reducing the number of servers and improving reliability really helped us. It reduced our workload, but it also opened our eyes to what else was possible with cloud-based technologies and new apps, and just to start investigating more things which are out there. By moving to a cloud, we've made things even more secure than they were before. We used to think that just having all of our data locked up in our server room was the most secure space to keep this. It isn't, in fact. The cloud, if done properly, can be far more secure with technologies like two-step verification and using devices like Chromebooks, which are the most secure devices out there currently. And over the last 5 years, we've invested a lot in our Chromebooks. And I said earlier, we've got 1,400 Chromebooks now. We've reduced the number of PCs and Macs we have, but we've actually doubled the overall number of devices we have. And we've done that without actually increasing our workload. If anything, our workload has reduced now, which has freed up our time to spend, my team's time to spend more time with teachers and learners and looking at how we use technology to support learning. And by doing all this, we've also saved money. So Chromebooks are far more cost effective than Macs and PCs. So we've been able to save a huge amount of money and reinvest that in other technology to benefit learning. Now, one of the reasons we chose Chromebooks is they're fast. They have excellent battery life, so that a Chromebook doesn't run out in a normal college day. It just keeps on running. All of our Chromebooks have touch screens, which offers up loads of opportunities for students to explore their creativity using Chromebooks by drawing on the screen and being able to write up work on the screen. It's offered up, quite an exciting range of possibilities. As I just mentioned, they're secure by design and they update themselves. So we don't have to worry about visiting every single device every year to make sure it's running the latest version of the operating system. Chrome OS looks after itself, freeing up my team's time. And the other reason my team love Chromebooks is the Google Admin Console. This makes it so easy for us to track our Chromebooks, manage the security settings, customize the user experience on our Chromebooks and the Chrome browser on the desktops as well. And it really easily allows us to deploy Chrome apps. Now, I just want to share a few more examples of what we're doing with technology in the classroom. So I mentioned earlier, we're using Google Classroom. This is Mark Robinson, who originally talked to me 5 years ago about Google Classroom and inspired us to go on this journey. And one of the reasons we like Google Classroom is it supports collaborative learning. It's great for enabling collaboration in the classroom, but also outside the classroom with distance learning and blended learning now. One of the other technologies we're very excited about and which has really taken off since over the last few months since we've switched to distance learning is Jamboard. Lots of teachers missed their old and fashioned interactive whiteboard in the classroom. So I was able to recommend Jamboard as a great alternative, a digital whiteboard, which allows teachers not only just to write on a screen, but also to share that collaboratively with their class, to get their class all interacting together on a single board, and then take that and share it in Google Classroom afterwards. So that's been very popular. Our library have also been doing excellent work with Google for Education. They were one of the first departments to take advantage of using Google Sites. And what they did was they used to have in the library topic resource sheets, which students would go in and have a look at and then put that down again so someone else could go along and look at it. But they took all that information about things like journals and ebooks and digital resources and apps and social media for learning. They took all that and created topic sites for every single subject in college. So now students can go online and find all these resources. And they helped inspire other courses to adopt using Google Sites as well for sharing resources. So now we have every single subject in college now has their own course site for sharing their resources, in addition to the topic site the library created. And we were recognised earlier this year in the EdTech 50 2020 yearbook, which our library team are very proud of, because before this, they weren't really the most tech savvy, or at least perceived as the most tech savvy department. So this has done wonders for their image as well. Our learning support department has also really embraced technology. Chromebooks form the foundation of our support we give students. So all of our students on learning support get their own Chromebook with a built-in pen, and this has read and writes from Text Help available, and that's available from all of our terminals, all of our Chromebooks and desktops throughout college. And this makes all our online learning materials more accessible. And our learning support department have also taken up Google Classroom and Google Sites as a way to offer learning strategies to support their students. And we've invested in other technologies like C-Pen readers, which allow students to hear back written text just using a simple digital pen. And one of the things I'm very passionate about, which we launched last year, is our digital learning hub. And this has been a fantastic way of sharing digital learning resources throughout the college. It's one of the problems we used to experience was lots of good work would go on in different departments, but these weren't necessarily being shared out amongst the wider college community. So we set up this platform as a way for students and teachers to share what was working well in their departments and well for their learning, and share it with the wider college community. And this is actually now publicly available. So if you're interested, I should have put a link here, but go to my.barton.ac.uk/digital, and you can explore all the various apps we're using to support learning. So thank you. That's everything from me. And I love connecting with new people. So please do follow me on Twitter, and I'd love to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think there's been some great comments in the chat about what you've done at Barton Peveril, and I think it's so important. I think what so many of teachers say to me, and Dave, who's coming up next, has also mentioned on his podcast, where teachers constantly complain about IT teams and IT managers who don't understand customer service and don't understand the value of what we bring as technical staff to schools. And I think Dave touched upon that in his podcast, Learning Dust, which he's going to talk about. And it's really inspiring to see yourself and your team and what you've done to support teachers. And it was really important that phrase you said about becoming EdTech enablers as opposed to EdTech blockers, because, you know, we're how many times have you been, and I've been called, you know, a blocker? You're the guy who blocks us from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and that kind of stuff. And it's great to see, you know, real great EdTech happening from a technical perspective, really powerfully. So yeah,
so IT people have so much to offer, so it's really important for IT staff to get out there and collaborate with teachers and students, and really work together, which I know Dave is an expert at.
Definitely, and that brings us very much nicely onto Dave. So thank you very much, Peter, and again, keep up the great work that you're doing at Barton Peveril. Dave, hello.
Hi, Abid. How are you, mate?
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Great. I'm feeling really great. We've got such great engagement on the chat, and it's really nice to get the to get the project launch underway. But yes, for those of you who don't know Dave, why don't you know Dave? He's an absolute superstar, and he is now the new strategic IT director, and I'm going to get it right this time, at the Watergrove Trust, not the Waterboard Trust, as I've called it in the past.
That's a very different organisation. I don't talk about that role too much.
But yes, Dave is I can now say this, a fellow Edufuturist Network Manager of the Year. Yeah, so.
Congratulations once again for succeeding me in that, Abid. What a well-deserved award for yourself. I know you don't like to talk about it too much.
No, absolutely not. I'm very shy, as you know. But we'll learn why you were Network Manager of the Year, because you've got such a great story to tell. So please take it away, Dave.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who's presented before me. It's been a really, really interesting afternoon so far, and I'm sure that it will continue to be so when I've finished. But in the meantime, you've got to sit through my presentation, so apologies for that. Abid's asked me to talk about myself, which I'm less comfortable about doing than he is. However, I believe it's traditional with a short name to say, it's me, it's the D-A-V to the E, or something along those lines. I don't do it as well as Abid, which is why he's now the Edufuturist Network Manager of the Year in place of me. However, I'm going to talk about my situation, the place that I work at, the experiences I've gone through, and how we go forward in really developing good customer services as an IT team. So I work at Matthew Moss High School originally. I've just taken on a new role for the trust that the school has joined. And Matthew Moss is where I've spent the majority of my career in education. I've worked there for nearly 17 years now. We're a school that's growing. We're nearly 1,200 learners and over 100 staff. But we We live as a school in a rather deprived area of Rochdale, which is in Lancashire, in the northwest of England. However, that doesn't stop us doing some pretty interesting things. And we do those things because we like to look out. We don't just look in. We learn, we research, we value other people's input, and that's really what drives us. And you'll see literally written on the front of the building, it says Learning for Life, and just underneath that, hidden behind the tree, we've got another acronym, CHANGE, which I will come on to very shortly. This man, Mark Morehouse, is an inspiration, and I was saying during previous presentation how important SLT is for any organization. I've been really fortunate in that when I first started my role, I worked under Mark's predecessor, Andy Raymer, and Andy Raymer said to me, I employ you to run the IT systems. Why on earth would I tell you what to do? You do it well, so you keep doing it. And that was kind of alien to me. I'd come from organizations where people were told what to do by leaderships, not given the license to do what they wanted to do. And as a result, I paid back that trust. I worked hard, I worked collaboratively with people, and I lived my role. I wanted to make the best for teachers and learners every single day when I went into work. And then Andy retired and Mark took over, and Mark managed to distill our ethos into three statements, really, and those are there for you to see. And the first one: thoughtful hard work shifts everything. There is very little that can't be achieved in this world by applying yourself diligently, thoughtfully, and honestly, really. And that's really, this ethos isn't just something that goes on the front page of a planner. This is something that is visible to anyone who comes to visit our school. And the second element of that is respect everyone and fear no one, because everybody is treated as equal. Every member of staff is treated as equal. Every learner is treated as equal. We believe in a strategy called transactional analysis, which is where we look at every transaction between individuals, and we just believe that everybody has equal value. So whether that's the newest year 7 in through the door on September the 4th, I think they come to us this year, or somebody who's been at the school for 30 years, everybody has got an equal anticipation and an equal ability to be respected, and shouldn't be feared. Nobody should be feared. No head teacher should be feared. No CEO should be feared. And that just makes everybody's experience of being in the building so much nicer. And then the third tenet of our ethos really is the desire to learn is universal. So I read very recently in Matthew Syed's book, Rebel Ideas, it's something along the lines of that there's no such thing as somebody who doesn't want to learn. It's somebody who doesn't want to learn what you're teaching them at that time. And Rob Hoban from the Agora School in the Netherlands says something very similar. Everybody wants to learn. Nobody goes to school not wanting to learn. They just don't necessarily want to learn what they're being taught at that time. So it's up to us as educators to work out what it is that they do want to learn. And I speak in this way because you might be thinking now, well, Abid's just described this guy as an IT director. What's that got to do with anything that he's talking about now? But everything that we do at the school is equitable. It works the same across the board. And we also use this acronym CHANGE that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And we believe in the school that everything that we do fits into one of these 6 categories. So all of our behavior points and our systems sit in these categories. So we believe that everybody in the school should have composure. They should be able to do what they want to do, even when they're in circumstances that they're not necessarily comfortable with. Like myself at the moment, delivering a public speech to over 100 people just on YouTube. That's really weird for me. I'm not used to doing that. I'm just an IT monkey who sits in his office in the cave, aren't I? Isn't that what they all do? Well, sometimes you've got to put yourself out there. And when you do put yourself out there, you've got to have high standards. And we anticipate and we expect high standards in everything that we do, whether that's from the cleaning staff to the catering staff to the IT staff, everybody in the building, every learner, we celebrate their high standards. And in order to achieve those high standards, you need agency. You need to look after your agency to take on a task. You have to go away and find out that information for yourself. You have to go and make sure that you're learning for yourself. You have a desire to learn. You have to make sure that you're not just expecting it to be handed to you on a plate. Numeracy and literacy, obviously that has to go into every school's sort of approach these days. Without numeracy and literacy, it severely undermines what you can do with everything else. And then growth mindset. I know that Georgina Dean is watching today, so hi Georgina. And this is something that Georgina and I have spoke about, in making sure that we don't have a mindset of, no, I can't do that. We don't deal with fixed mindsets. We treat everybody as deserving of an approach of a growth mindset. So every new year 7 that comes to us spends 2 periods a week in a lesson that we call change. And we bring together all these different aspects for every learner to take on board, every member of staff to take on board. All new staff who join us this year will have the same presentation from the head teacher as the learners will have from their individual class teachers, because we absolutely believe in change. And the final thing that we have in change, and this to me is the most important one, it's the one that sits at the center of my approach, is empathy. We have to empathize with each other. No matter what our role, we have to be there. We have to understand what it is that other people are going through. And this is central to the things that Pete was talking about in the last conversation, about how you go about understanding your user, his UX course that he mentioned. Absolutely all of that revolves around empathy. So my approach is summed up really as relating to that empathy. It's sympathy for the devil. So it's been mentioned that previously IT teams have been seen as blockers and have been seen as the enemies of what teachers want to do. And if we flip that on its head, sometimes teachers can be seen as the enemies of security or of a good network structure for techies. We have to strike a balance between security, between cost, and between usability. And it's striking that balance is only possible if you can understand what everybody's trying to achieve. Third, SLT want to get the best from both of these teams. They want to make sure that teaching and learning comes first. And that's what it has to do. And that's what it's always done in my school. So how do we go about that? For me, my role is wide and varied within the school. I'm not just the IT manager. I'm not just the IT director now. Still can't get used to that. But I try to get involved in all different aspects of the school. I'm really keen on getting myself and the rest of the techies out of the office and into the classroom. If we can spend time in the classroom, then we can understand what the teachers and the learners are experiencing when they use the tech. And that's got to be absolutely central to what we do. Whilst you're out there, it also allows you to build relationships with your colleagues. And again, that's relationships with people at all areas of the organisation. Teaching staff, non-teaching staff, the ladies in the office that were referred to earlier, the people sending out the letters, the leadership teams, the governors, everything comes down to relationships. And if you can get those relationships right, then you'll understand each other better. Not only will I understand the people that I'm trying to serve, then they will understand that I'm trying to do it from a position of goodness. Mark Morehouse, who I mentioned earlier, says 97% of people want to do a good job. And I truly believe that. There's not many people who go into work thinking, I don't want to do a good job today. And if they do, then maybe we need to work with them and understand what's making them think that. So empathy is king. And Pete's also mentioned previously about celebrating your successes, but I think you should also share your challenges as well. So if somebody calls and says, can you give me a hand? Can you give me a hand with a problem? Quite often you just need to say, well, actually, I'm in the middle of 6 other things at the moment that are perhaps a little bit more important. I'll come back to you as soon as I can do. But just share and communicate with people, and that makes it so much better. So I mentioned some of the areas when I said get out and do different things around your school, and these are just some of the things that came up with off the top of my head. So in my time at Matthew Moss, I coached the Year 10 football team to a semi-final where we lost on penalties, and I'm still absolutely gutted about that. But we will come back stronger next time, I'm sure. And the school's drone pilot, for which I've had to take further exams this year because there are new regulations in there. And the school sound engineer, when we have musical events or production events on, I'm up on the sound desks. I do the school timetable. This is traditionally a senior management job, but we had 1 year when the timetable went quite badly wrong, and as a result of that, I inherited the problem, solved the problem, and 9 years later, I'm still the school timetabler. I drive the minibus. I've acted as site supervisor for 18 months whilst our previous site supervisor was unable to do his job, and until we ultimately managed to bring somebody else on board. So then I had to learn all kinds of extra things, and I understood his role a lot better. When the new person took over, I understood what he needed to do to satisfy the health and safety requirements of the role, and I was able to help him with that as well. I'm a DV assessor. For those of you who are not familiar with DV, that's a Duke of Edinburgh scheme where we take young people out and get them to volunteer in the community. We get them to develop their skills, and we take them on an expedition at the end where they're almost independent and go on expeditions where they're reading their own map, planning their own journey, and camping overnight. It's a phenomenal scheme, and it's really well valued. I'm a CEOP ambassador, which is online protection, and it's another really important area that we deal with at school. So I work in close conjunction with our safeguarding team to make sure that our IT systems are usable by them. And again, I have to understand what they're talking about, and they have to understand what I'm explaining to them to make sure that we're both able to get the best outcomes for young people. I was honoured enough to be asked to be an ANME ambassador. So the ANME is the Association of Network Managers in Education, and this is a group of people who work together similar to EduGeek that Abid mentioned earlier, and we come together to support each other. Being a network manager or an IT director in a school is kind of lonely in some ways, because you're the only person doing that role within your school. As a member of SLT, there's 7 or 8 in some schools, people doing a similar role to you. So you've got that collaborative support. But as an IT person, it can be lonely. So this is a wonderful organisation that's been set up that meets regularly, and I'm a big fan of the ANME and how we can support other people from other schools doing the jobs that we do. And quite often, even if it's not giving them an answer, just coming together periodically with people who do the same job as us, we can go away from meetings and say, do you know what, at least it's not just me going through that. And I'm looking through some of the comments previously, and there's a lot of recognition from people that they take some comfort, some succor from the fact that they're not the only person going through some of the issues that people are speaking about. And then, as Abid mentioned, I was really fortunate enough to be crowned EduFuturist Network Manager of the Year last year, a crown which I was very, very happy to pass on to Abid this year, and went so far as to become his official campaign manager. So I was really pleased that the Vote Abid campaign was successful. So congratulations once again on that, mate. But the thing that brought it all together for me was when I became a Google certified innovator. I was really fortunate. My SLT gave me that freedom. They give me the freedom all the time to develop my own skills, because we've built up that trust over the years that anything that I do for myself pays back tenfold into the school. I don't go on personal journeys to do the things that are going to benefit me. I work for the school and I develop my own skills to the good of the school. And the best piece of CPD that I've ever done is the Innovator Academy, which I was fortunate enough to do in London last year. And I've just been blown away by the people who I've met, the quality of work that they've done, that they do on a day-to-day basis, and that they're doing now as they bring their projects to fruition at the end of their 12 months. Literally today, I received this book, which is by a wonderful colleague of ours from London 19. It's called Be the Light. It's by Tara Klein. And honestly, if anybody has got the chance to check out the website or to buy the book, they will find some amazing stories on there. And there's such good work being done within the innovator community that's not necessarily related to IT. So yeah, check out Be the Light, please. It's an amazing project, and I'm so proud to say that I know Tara. So all this has led to a change in my role. I was the IT technician when I first started work at Matthew Moss. I became the ICT manager. I had 3 or 4 different job titles along the same lines. And then ultimately Matthew Moss joined the Water Growth Trust in November of 2019. And in May, I was successful in taking on the role of Director of IT. So at the moment, we're only a small trust with 3 primaries, 2 secondary schools, but we are going to grow. And what we want to do is to make sure that we're passing on the same ethos, the same values, and the same service to the people who join our trust as we have in the schools that are there already. So my role is focusing on strategy and innovation. So getting out there and being involved in things like Abid's ITjustworks project are amazing things for me. It's a fantastic chance for me to meet new people, to share our message, and to learn from other people as well. And the people presenting today are some of the best people you can learn from. My own London 19 project has been all about this. It's about bringing all these things together. So I have a project, I have a website and a podcast for my project, and it all comes together, and we call it Learning Dust, because nobody ever picked up an iPad and magic learning dust fell out to the bottom of it. We have to learn how to use the tools. We have to learn how to work with the people. And the 3 things that have come out of the discussions that I've had with some amazing guests on our Learning Dust podcast is that 3 words come out of it. It's communication, it's empathy, and it's relationships. And if we can build those 3 things within our schools, then we'll get to that situation where everybody benefits, where people can enjoy working together, where young people benefit from the enhanced environment in which they're working, and in which not just 97, but 100% of people can go into work and do a good job all of the time, because that's what we're there for, isn't it? Mark Twain said, what's the quote? Something along the lines of, find a job that you love and you'll never work another day in your life. And I feel truly blessed to have found the place for me and the people for me who support me in that approach. And that's what I wanted to share with you today, really, is that if you focus on communication, you focus on empathy, and you focus on those relationships, then absolutely anybody can take this approach and benefit their school with it, or their college, or their organization. And that's what I've got to tell you, Abid.
Thank you very much for that, Dave. That's I love hearing that story, and I love the inspiration behind everything in your journey, and it's really great for others to see some of the things that we IT professionals do behind the scenes that are just really not captured at all, and how there are times where we're, jack of all trades, doing all sorts of stuff. And it was great to see all the stuff that you've listed out there, even the minibus driver, because there used to be that really negative perception in schools where if you're not actually digging your hands into a computer or switching things off and on again, you're not really actually doing anything, are you? And so it's really important for school teams to see some of the real stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and also after hours. How many times do we work late into the night doing things just to avoid having to impact on people's productivity during the day?
Absolutely. I always say a good IT team is like a good referee in sports. The really good ones, you don't notice that they're there, because everything just works. We have a transparent layer just enabling what goes on rather than becoming an obstacle or a block. So if you're not noticing your IT team and everything's just working and your IT just works, see what I did there, Abid, then somebody's doing a good job somewhere. So just go and take them a packet of biscuits and say, keep up the good work.
Yeah, it was someone who told me, I can't remember who it was, who said, and I said it was Jamie Smith, who from C Learning, one of our sponsors, who said a good IT team, the IT team is invisible when it doesn't, when everything is working. So when it's not working, what the hell are we paying you for? And then when it is working, well, it's all working. What the hell are we paying you for? And so it's really important to showcase some of this great work that happens behind the scenes. So thank you very much, Dave. And those of you who haven't heard the Learning Dust podcast, it's great, especially the last episode. But we'll touch upon that with our next guest soon enough. She's about to pop on, but thank you very much once again, Dave, and
You're very welcome.
great to hear from you as always.
Keep up the good work, mate.
Right, so we are now on to our next prize giveaway, which is by one of our sponsors, WizKids. So WizKids really support me at my trust with all of our user provisioning and G Suite integration, and Max at WizKids has been a real support to me over the last few years as I've been working with Google for Education. And please do, similar to the last giveaway, follow those 3 accounts on Twitter. ITjustworks, myself, Abid_Patel, and WizKids EDU, and then fill out the feedback form at the end of the show. We've got Google Home Mini to give away from WizKids, and also some notebooks and water bottles for some lucky winners. So please do enter that giveaway and follow those accounts and fill out forms. Next up, we have, going stateside, Stephanie Howell. Now, if those of you who've seen my previous antics online on YouTube will know how friendly we are together, Stephanie and I. We never have any
banner.
We never have any disagreements, do we, Stephanie? We all like.
No, definitely not. I mean, Abid is Team Grid View.
Yeah, we're all Team List View. Yeah,
he likes to make his tea in the microwave.
I can send you off and move on to the next speaker at any possible time.
I mean, Dave did go over in my time.
Right, Steph. Okay, well, seeing as Dave has, do you want to share your screen and then?
Yeah, I am ready to go.
And then you can take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to be sharing the Pickerington story. Pickerington is the only district I have worked in. I did my student teaching in Pickerington, and then I applied for a position and I got the position. So this is the only place I've ever worked, and I absolutely love it here. And I love the innovation that our district is doing, and we're working so well with different departments, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. So a little bit about Pickerington is we are a pretty big district for Ohio. I know there's huger districts in Canada and Texas and all those other places, but in Ohio, we're pretty big. We have almost 11,000 students. We are the 14th largest school district. We have 763 teachers, and then we have 109 admin. So it's a pretty fun place to work. I am in 3 different buildings, and I get to help teachers and students use technology. So my job is an instructional technology coordinator, and I get to work with admin, teachers, parents, students, pretty much anybody in the district. I'm working with them, even like custodians. I've taught them how to use like Google, which is really cool. And this is my team. So Brian Seymour is my boss, and then we have Angie, and then David, Scott, and Shelly, and we are all a part of the instructional technology team. And from there, we also have our IT team. And I know we talked about this before, me and Abid, but it's so true. Like, both teams need to communicate. If you don't communicate with your IT team, it makes things very, very difficult in the long run. And so these lovely people I get to work with on a daily basis, and it helps me because I'm such a go-getter type A type of person that I'm like, okay, let's get this done. And then one of them will be like, okay, Stephanie, think about why we can't do that or why this program's blocked. And I'm like, just unblock it. Let's just get going. So it's really good to have that communication in place with your IT team and the instructional technology team. But on top of that team, we also have our teaching and learning coordinators. So these folks, I work really closely with Brooke. She's this one right here. And we meet almost every week if we're not talking on a daily basis. And that is so huge because technology can't happen very successfully unless you have a teaching and learning and a pedagogy kind of focus in your instruction. So we work very closely together. And again, I meet every single week with Brooke. She's over our coaches. I meet with our coaches once a week for sure. But I mean, I'm talking to them on a daily basis. We'll be in the same room, or we'll be texting, or whatever we need to do. Before COVID, Google Meet, you know. And it's just really nice to have all those three departments collaborating and communicating together, because if we were not, it would be a hot mess. So that's just real quick the background of our three different teams. And so our technology plan, it started back in 2015. My first year in Pickerington was 2014. So I was one of those lucky teachers that came into the district. And in college, in the States, I don't know if this is the same in the UK, but in the States, you don't get a whole lot of training on technology. And so when I got my student teaching, Pickerington had devices where you could go to the library and check them out. I'm sure everybody remembers those lovely days. And then in 2014, I was a special education teacher. So that meant that I got a cart all to myself, and my students could use that device. And so my students would use a computer because they had learning disabilities, and they were able to use those different devices to help them kind of make the level of the playing field even. And so my students would use the device, you know, to have their readings be read to them, use it for their writing so they could write down their ideas, or even use dictation to communicate what they were doing. It helped a lot of their skills when I had to use Google Classroom just to organize, this is what we're going to do today, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. And so technology kind of started when my first year of teaching, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I think that's part of technology, is you don't know what you're doing, just click. You won't break it. There's always an undo button. And if there's not, you have an Abid or some type of friend, if you have a good PLN, that will help you and drive you to the right way. And so that's kind of where my life started. So 2014, I became a teacher. We had those iPad carts. And then the following year, they started getting iPads for teams. So we had to split iPads between teams. To be honest, I kind of hogged the iPad cart, and nobody else was allowed to use it. Surprise, surprise, because I fell in love with technology and the way that it was used in our classrooms. And then from there, the following year, we went one-to-one. And because we went one-to-one, and it was so successful because we had the pedagogy focus first, because we really focused on blended learning, they decided to go one-to-one really quickly across our district. It was supposed to be multi-years, and the next year, everybody was one-to-one. And so again, curriculum is a focus. So we had to work on curriculum frameworks. We had to work on different pacing guides to make sure everybody was teaching kind of the same thing. We got rid of textbooks, which was hard for a lot of teachers. I still hear some of those older teachers go, well, if we had textbooks, and I'm like, well, this program is updating more quickly, and they're listening to your feedback compared to a textbook. So still having some of those conversations with some of our teachers, but we also have common assessments. So looking over data and talking about strategies of what worked, what didn't work, and using the device to get instant feedback for students so that they know what way and track they're going. And then I just love to say this, that technology for technology's sake will always lead to failure. So if you're just using technology to use technology because you think it's cool, or you want to use the brand new thing, it's going to fail. You need to focus on pedagogy and why you need to use it, and how is that going to affect your instruction. Because in some cases, paper could be better. And in others, the device might be a better option for those students. So you really got to focus on, okay, what am I teaching? What is my standards? Who needs to benefit from this? How can I help the different subgroups so they can participate? And using different programs like that to decide how you're going to teach your different subject areas. And so my boss, Brian Seymour, he came up with this word, traditional or tradigital. And so it's taking traditional learning, the best practices of traditional learning, and the best practices of digital, and kind of blending them together. So it's like our own version of blended learning. And so we might take, just direct instruction isn't always bad. So we might take that and we might do a quick mini lesson, 10 minutes of all the students listening to new material. And then we might use like iReady or Canva and have the students make infographics or some type of artwork, so they're not always just consuming information, but they're also being producers of it. So we've taken this work and we have kind of laid out a roadmap. And so the first year, we kind of just expect teachers, because giving a teacher device is really hard. So our first year, which was just a couple years ago, we gave everybody a device. And we had to talk about, what does that classroom look like? It's probably still going to be a traditional classroom, because teachers had to learn new ways that they're going to use classroom management, what their vision was going to look like for their classroom now that kids have a device. And then we had to introduce them to blended learning. And then they also had to go to the second year. So a lot of teachers jumped on right away because they loved what the device helped in the classroom, because they were able to give that immediate feedback that they might not have been able to. A lot of teachers, were taking papers home and they weren't giving feedback throughout the process, where now teachers could hop on a Google Doc and leave comments as the kids are producing their work. And they could say, hey, correct this as they're doing it, rather than waiting for that final product, which was super, super helpful. And so from there, we're also going to year 2, and most of my teachers are at the year 3. So they are working on those 21st century skills. They're looking over their blended learning model. They're looking at data. They're looking at things to create different subgroups and different groups so that they can make their small group lessons with those kids and really personalizing the instruction for everybody. So those are kind of our models, and every teacher is at their own pace. Some teachers got to year 3 a lot quicker than other teachers. And I think that's just how our kids are too. Like, some kids are going to get there faster than others. And it's the same with teachers. So we just have to kind of, slow down and meet people where they are. And I think that's where some people really struggle, or the old way of professional development is. And so here we have the traditional learning. One of the ways that it might look like in a classroom is 4 different stations. So right here we have the teacher-led small group. So the teacher's meeting with 5 to 6 students. And then we have students collaborating and working together on some type of activity. It's usually after they've gone to the teacher-led station. They're practicing that skill, maybe with a partner or by themselves. And then over here, they're working on a digital software kind of station. So this could be Edpuzzle, it could be iReady. They're learning from the computer. And then this one's my favorite, the 5C station. They're working on different projects. So they're working on creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and we added connectedness so that students can connect with other students outside of their own 4 walls and create projects outside of those own walls. And so in our district, like I said, there's 3 schools that I kind of oversee. And last year, there was a teacher from another middle school connecting with another teacher in the district at another building. And those kids, seeing them collaborate together, I'd walk through the hall and they're like, do you know this kid? He's at Diley, And I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't know the kids, but they thought I did because I'm in all 3 buildings. And so it was just really cool to hear their connections that they were making because of this station, that they were able to make connections. And this is where this learning, I believe, gets really sticky, because they're able to become producers. And then we have a ton of flowcharts. Like we were talking about earlier, communication is super, super important. So these flowcharts really help. It's not this overwhelming. I just put them all on here. These flowcharts really help teachers new to our district understand our process, because if I say yes, they have to know it's going to go down to somebody else. Or if I say no, why did I say no? So this flowchart really, really helps people understand why that answer was made the way that it was. And so we've got flowcharts for just giving out a device. Every kind of flowchart you could think of, there's a flowchart for it. But this one's probably one of the most important flowcharts that I use on a daily basis. So when we get new programs, because a lot of teachers, I'm sure after COVID especially, they're going to be like, that program, they gave it to us for free. So what am I going to do? And so my boss, he created this awesome flowchart, and it's super easy for teachers to understand. They decide, is this a new digital content? So is it brand new? Has the district never had it, or do we currently have it? So if we've never had it, you're going to go down to this flow chart. If we have had it, you're going to go down to this flow chart. And then we walk through this flow chart with a committee. So my committee usually has about 10 different teachers from around the district: special ed, EL, ELA, math, science, social studies, all the different subgroups, because we want to make sure everybody's kind of covered. And they meet with their TBT teams, which are teachers-based teams, to discuss more in detail about what that's going to look like. So what they have to do first is we have to complete a software application and a rubric. So we take a rubric and we look over the programs and we score every single program on how it is. That deals with privacy, it deals with accessibility, it deals with a ton of different things to make sure that that program is good for our students to use. And it's kind of crazy, like companies aren't ready for the type of questions that we've been asking them because we have this process set up. Some of them are like, I don't know, like I'll have to get back to you on how that relates. And it's like, you really should be questioning the companies on the programs that you're buying and not just buying them to buy them. And then up here is all like the technology. So I have to look at, as a team, we have to look at like, did this allow for what we expected students to learn? Like, did this product, so if it's Pear Deck, did we allow it to do what it was supposed to do? And then we look at usage. So were teachers even using the program? Because if they're not, we should probably get rid of it. And then we have to make sure that we have enough evidence and support that teachers want to keep this program. And then we have a questionnaire that we ask the companies and we fill out to make sure that this is a program that we want. And then again, we look, is it even going to work with our current devices? There was a program we bought and it didn't work with our Chromebooks. So that's one of the questions now is, does it even work with the current devices that we have, or is it going to fail and have tons of issues and we're going to have to troubleshoot later? And then just looking to make sure it's going to work with our current infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. And does it meet privacy? I mean, that's a huge thing in America, and I know it is in the UK. And you just follow these flow charts, and then finally you decide if it's approved or not approved. And this process, it starts in February and it ends in May. But it really has helped teachers understand why we are buying certain products or why we're not. And it makes them look at the usage and think about how are they using these different programs. And it allows the technology committees to come together and get feedback from teachers. Usually these decisions aren't mine. I'm listening to teachers and gathering all this data from February all the way to May. And then in May, I make my recommendations, and then we buy whatever products we think the teachers need for that school year. And again, we do this every single year. So there's a lot of voice and choice for teachers to share what they want to do. And then here's that rubric that I was talking about. So the rubric is in this yellow area. And again, you just score it. So you want to get a pretty high score for us to determine if we're going to purchase it or not. We look for advertisements. We look at costs. And all of this is on our website. Feel free to steal, use, whatever you need. And then a lot of people are having issues with devices and making sure everybody has a device. So we made sure everybody has a device. And then from there, we partnered with the community and we were like, can our students use your Wi-Fi? Well, a lot of kids weren't going to places to use Wi-Fi. They didn't feel comfortable or whatever. So we developed this Everyone is Connected program. And it is where every student that needs a hotspot, it's a MiFi device, they can get a hotspot and take it home to use. This has been really beneficial during COVID. So students that are unable to have Wi-Fi due to whatever reason, they're able to fill this out and get one of their devices. And it has helped students so much. Like you can just see how their face when they pick up a hotspot device, how much relief they feel and how less stress and anxiety they have because they're able to participate just like their peers, even though they might not have Wi-Fi at home. And we decide devices. So we have iPads for our K-2s, and we have Chromebooks from 3 until high school. And so they're based on what the kids need. And it's kind of awesome because our students, they love the touchscreen. So that was up for debate this past spring. And so we asked some of the students, okay, would you like a device without a touchscreen or a device with a touchscreen, because a device without a touchscreen is a lot cheaper to buy or to fix. And they all wanted the touchscreen. So we took what they said and why they wanted that device, and we used that to help decide, is it going to benefit their learning? And we decided that yes, it probably is, because a lot of them like to touch and they're used to that in their learning. And then this is just like our rollout plan. So 5th and 9th graders always get new devices. And then our elementaries, they have iPads and Chromebooks, and they don't take them home until this year due to COVID, but they usually just stay in the classroom. And so we will rotate in and out different devices depending on the year. But every single year, 5th and 9th grade will get a new device. And then these are, again, no more textbooks, but we do have a lot of digital content. So we have video, so students can create, Pear Deck, so they can get immediate feedback and teachers can quickly change their lesson if they based on the feedback. We have Google, we love Google. Ed Puzzle, so students can watch videos and answer questions, iReady, ClassLink. So these are definitely all the programs, and plus we have a bunch more, but these are just a few. And then again, classroom management, teachers really had to focus on what is my classroom going to look like. So they had, this is an example of one of the teachers, she did a red task. So Chromebooks are closed, you're not using them. Yellow, we might be using them, and then green, we will be using them. But we had to create that common language throughout the entire school. So that way kids knew, going from specials or going from different classrooms, what the expectation was with their device. And that was probably a huge change for teachers, was the classroom management and learning, what do I need to do in order for my students to feel successful? And again, we had to change professional development. And to do that, we had a lot of professional development my first year. It was sit and get. So we just sat there and listened. And yeah, if I was gonna die, I would hope it would be during a staff meeting, because it was pretty rough. And then we were able to change once the devices came in. We were able to provide different groups whatever they needed. Some teachers quickly ran to the blended learning, so they needed support in classroom management, and we were able to provide that for them. Other teachers needed to learn how to use Google Classroom and how to organize it in a way for students to use. So we focused there. And every year it's kind of been growing. And last year was probably one of my favorite professional learning models, is we used an unconference style. There's no agenda. Teachers picked a topic and they went to that room and they just talked. They just learned from each other. They kind of built their personal learning network and just talked with each other about what their struggles are and what they can do to solve those different problems in education. And so that was really fun to just watch teachers collaborate together to problem solve. So again, it's no longer sitting there. They were actually like working and building different templates to help each other. And then I just like to share real quick some of the beyond the device. So we have VR kits and AR kits in every single one of our buildings. So we like to take the students to different locations so they can really see what they're learning. So if they're reading about the ocean, kids can go to the ocean, and it's really shown us that their comprehension and writing skills go up. They're more descriptive in their writing, because a lot of kids have never been to the ocean, which is crazy to me, but it's true. A lot of them have never left Pickerington, and we don't have an ocean in Ohio. And so they have no idea what an ocean looks like, but once they're able to go there in VR, their writing can be more descriptive. They can make connections to the reading because they're able to visualize it. That's one of the main areas that a lot of students struggle with. And so here we've got some kids, looking at the VR. And then we also have an AR sandbox. So this is really cool. Like, you take your hands and it can look like it's raining and create water. And then this is my favorite. So we have a K-12 computer science pathway. And yes, students are flying drones in the hallway. It's crazy. And it's so much fun. I love going into this building when it's drone time, and you're like, okay, can I walk by you guys? Like, what are you guys doing? And it's crazy. Drones are flying through the hallway in this activity. So they've got obstacle courses that they have to build, and then they have to code the drone to go through their obstacle course. These kids right here are making Ozobot stories. So they're using coding to tell a story about where the Ozobot's going and why he's going there. Here's 2 more pictures of the drone, so you can see the boys coding them. And then this one's about to take off. You do have to like say, watch out, it's about to go, but it's super cool. And then this one is really cool. It's Bloxels. So the kids get to create their own video games. So many kids are like, I want to be a video game creator. Well, you can in 5th and 6th grade. So we bought these Bloxels, and you can build it on an iPad, and then you can play your game in real life. It's really cool that kids love playing each other's games, and they get to become the creator of their own game. And then I don't know if I can say this, but in the UK, I know the loo is not the loo of what we think in America, but the loo playground is this awesome game that we have for students in gym class. So we bought 3 of these for our gym, and they ask the students different questions, and the kids have to work collaboratively to solve the different type of questions. And then they throw this ball, and it tells them if they got it right or wrong. So our gym classes, they're using a blended learning model to teach gym. One station, the kids might be doing some type of warm up. The next one is a loo playground. And then another one, they might be using the rock wall or something like that, or basketball, to practice those skills. And then they switch every 10 minutes. And so this one is a lot of fun. A lot of teachers try to play this for their workout too. And then we've changed the way that we teach digital citizenship as well. So we bought picture books because digital citizenship wasn't working the way that we were teaching it. We were using just common sense lesson plans, and a lot of kids were bored. They were just so sick of it. So in the elementary, we bought these cute little picture books where it says, like, if you give a mouse an iPhone, that the kids read it and then they have a discussion with their teacher. And so these have been really powerful K-4. And so this is kind of what, school used to look like. You've got your intervention group over here. You've got your whole group over here. You've got kids not even listening. These kids not even, like falling asleep right here. And we had realized we need to change what school looks like. And so we began to design our classrooms a little bit differently, because design really does affect learning. And so we started to remodel our media centers. And then we've also started to redesign our classrooms. So you can see that kids are kind of, sitting on a stool, or they're on balls, or they're sitting on the floor, and creating those flexible learning experiences for students. And so you can do this. It just takes a lot of time. But if you have a good personal learning network and people that are cheering you on, you are able to be successful. There we go.
Thank you very, very much for that, Stephanie. The chat was going completely wild. Everyone was so inspired by that story you had to tell. And I know your district was it voted ISTE District of the Year, I think, in 2018? And
yeah, in 2018 we were voted ISTE's Distinguished District. You get a nice lunch. It was really good by ISTE, and then you get a nice award. And we were on the big screen. It was fun. So our district really has done a ton of stuff, and I'm really blessed to work here.
And I know you're back in school for the first time today, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have this is like a classroom. I don't even have the fun. I even got dressed up for this. Like I am not in sweatpants. This is a nice dress, guys.
I'm sure you're going to have a great year ahead. Unprecedented year. I know it's been especially tough in the States, but if there's anyone who can do it well, it'll be the Pickerington School District, because it's quite clear to see from that story. And I think everyone's been so inspired by the digital approach. I love that word, and some of the other resources that you showed there, and everyone's screaming out for your slide deck. And I just want to say that we will definitely share everything on the ITjustworks website and on the ITjustworks Twitter account after we've finished. But thank you very much, Steph.
And reach out if anybody has questions. We're always willing to share and provide as much knowledge as we can.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Steph, for joining us on this London 19 project. It just shows how much you love London 19. But
No, I'm
no,
here to
great
celebrate
shout out
Sydney
to
19, and I'm going to dance away.
great shout out to Sydney 19 there, which Stephanie was part of the Innovator Academy, and there's been some great people who've come out of that academy. So we are on to the home stretch, and I want to introduce to you, taking away for the main event is Devon Rossiter, and it's apt that he should lead the main event, seeing as he was previously a sports broadcaster, and we are. I'm really excited to hear what Devon's got to say about his project, and I know I've seen a snippet of what he's been doing with his project, and it's been absolutely great. And so before you take it away, Devon, we've got one more giveaway to give after Devon's finished, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. But Devon, do you want to share your screen and then
yeah. Absolutely. First of all, thank you very much, Abid. In comparison to Stephanie, this is going to be a really unique presentation for me. It's the first keynote I've ever given where I'm not wearing shoes. Let's all be real here. This is where we are right now, everybody. So again, thank you very much, Abid. And, this is a really pressing time. Thank you again. It's a pleasure to help close things out on the launch of ITjustworks. I hope today to touch upon the idea of design and the role it plays in bridging the gap that exists between educators and IT specialists. But I don't necessarily want to copy and paste a how-to list. Instead, I want to take the opportunity to share the path I took on an eye-opening project I've been able to work on over the last year that has global potential to enrich academic experiences globally. So just bear with me. I'm going to make a little quick edit here. Yeah, there we go. So hello, everyone. I'm Devon Rossiter. I'm a former sports broadcaster and statistician. I've worked in education for about 10 years now, first as a 6th grade teacher, then as a math specialist for Bakersfield City School District. I've seen quite a few BCSD reps here in the chats. It's great to see everybody. After that, I returned to campus as an academic coach. That's where I am right now, Walter Stern Middle School, serving about 1,200 students, K through 8 district, largest in California. I'm going to begin today with another number, and this number is a little less popular. Not that it inspires any type of vitriol or disgust. The fact that it fails to even do that reveals how little this number is generally regarded. So I'd like to reveal this number, give you a moment to consider what connection you might have with these said digits. And here it is. Now, by itself, very little stands out about 37. It's a prime number. It's the body temperature in Celsius. It was the international dialing code for East Germany when East Germany was a thing. Richard Nixon was the 37th president. That's really all you can say about 37. There's no famous athletes who ever wore it on their uniform. There's no landmarks on 37th Street in New York. Very close to my age. I'm not going to go too much farther than that. Now, I'm not even going to count events that took place in 1937 because that's a 4-digit number. That's completely different. Now, to understand the impact of 37, let's take a moment to understand the beauty of 36. 36 is a wonderfully neat number. It has a lot of friendly factors, a lot of different applications, many different ways 36 can be represented. It has utility and use dating back to the Mesopotamian area, since that civilization was enamored by multiples of 12. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So you have 12 knuckles on your hand right here, not including your thumb, but you can count to 12 on one hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. The Mesopotamians figured out you could count to 60 on two hands, including to 36. That's why multiples of 12 have such application throughout the world of math. That's why we have 12 months in a year, 24 hours in a day, almost 360 days in a year, 360 degrees in a circle. Multiples of 12 are beloved in our application of the world. And 36 is also significant because it is the number of accepted applicants on standard to Google's innovator cohorts. Now, I applied for the Los Angeles cohort in March of 2018 on a rather rough attempt. Hey, I thought it'd be neat. Let me try it. I missed the cut. And I went into the application process for the Copenhagen cohort with a little bit of a focused drive and focus. This is the Copenhagen cohort, Den 18. Where am I? That's right. Number 37. The last one off the bubble. I didn't know that at the time. It was confirmed later. I was so committed to joining the Innovator program that I took the next half year to mentally prepare. I bounced around and kept track of different challenges, did a spreadsheet about their application, evaluated how big they truly were, and how many students and teachers they'd impact. I ended up settling on one challenge close to home. And for me, this was a personal pet peeve whenever I would visit classrooms. And it's this: the darkening of classrooms worldwide. Now, all of us have been in rooms like this, subservient to a front of the room overhead or wall-mounted projector with dimming or dying bulbs. Now, instead of replacing these bulbs, which would be cost prohibitive for many sites, educators resort to patchwork measures such as covering their windows with paper or drawing curtains if they have them, shutting off lights entirely. And the impact of this in practice is detrimental to long-term emotional well-being and academic achievement and sleep cycles. For our most vulnerable students, school sites are where they get most of their access to natural lighting. And practices like this end up depriving them of this. So I formulated my challenge. How might we encourage learning environments that are less dependent on front displays and more amenable to healthier lighting? So with this, I submitted. In March of 2019, I got the good news. In honesty, it was unexpected. I had irrationally convinced myself that I would miss the cut with the London cohort, and instead I find myself as part of the New York cohort, since that's where I was born and raised, eliminating any of the international, adventurous, passporty allure of jet setting for global professional development. Instead, I probably would crash with my grandma before I went to Google, hopping on the Staten Island ferry for 3 days. So I wasn't really expecting to be a part of this cohort, but I'm glad I was, because I was able to get that experience. Now, upon arriving at Google's offices in London for the Academy, I was enveloped by design thinking, rapid fire sparks, challenges, brainstorming, all of it focused on one thing concerning the challenge. Who is the one who can have the most impact on your challenge? At first, with my challenge, I thought it'd be an on-site or district level administrator who would have to purchase the bulbs. Or it might be IT admin who might approve a one-to-one Chromebook app that they could push out to everybody. But I hadn't really considered existing resources or what would be an ideal. Now, my coach for the Academy, Ben Rouse, he's pictured right here, either trying to take my sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, or he's scolding me on my inferior handling of tinfoil. He helped pivot my thinking regarding my challenge by asking a big question. What is the best lighting you have access to on your campus right now? So I'm a California via Boston via Staten Island smartass. So I bounced right back with him. I don't know, smart guy, the sun. And dopily, I was correct. My challenge pivoted immediately from this to this. How might we shift learning environments towards better lit existing spaces on campus? And when it did, my user changed. It became not so much the admin or the IT staff, but the teachers themselves. Teachers recognize the benefits of outdoor learning. We know that when kids are outside more, school performance increases. We know that outdoor learning is beneficial for not just mental and social well-being, but physical health. You move around more when you're outside. You're more active. We know that learning outdoors supports childhood development because we see that in place in a lot of kindergarten settings in not just Germany, but really around the world. there is so much more time dedicated to active outdoor play in younger ages, but yet we shut that down as kids grow and get older. We know that kids get excited for outdoor learning. It's different. It's a change of scenery. It throws things off, and kids get excited about that. We know that outdoor learning develops a sense of place and civic attitudes. We know that kids are more aware of their surroundings, about how learning is applied beyond four walls. And when families and communities see outdoor learning happening, they have a deeper connection and association with what's actually happening on school campuses. Teachers love getting outside for learning, but recognize it was obstructive to do. Difficulty in this is teachers feel like they have to either design an outdoor lesson, so that requires an entire lesson plan, or all of their resources are digital and those don't carry outside when you are dependent on that front of the room smartboard. We started out doing design sprints with our challenges. 8 rounds. Brainstorm an idea for 40 seconds. Stop. Take a 10-second break. Repeat. If you can't come up with an idea in 40 seconds, hey, come up with the worst idea possible, something that would never be legal or allowed or passed by. Nobody would ever approve this. You'll learn from that. Narrow that 8 down to 3, and then pare that 3 down to 1 that you can focus on to develop. As I did this, I realized my work would be less about apps or sites or digital tools and more on a physical solution, low tech to support high tech. Feedback was critical. This activity that you see here was really helpful in testing out ideas and strengths. What you do is you build out a frame for your idea with 3 of the key features that drive your solution. Then others place sticky dots on the components that really stand out. Now, this sparked tremendous conversation about the challenge and additional solutions. This was just the first of these cycles because as much fun as the brainstorm was, the users and testing would drive the final product. And this would continue for the remainder of the Academy up until the final day, when we would present our concept on Google's UK YouTube stage. What this entailed leading up to that moment was the development of a working model. And we had 30 minutes to either come up with something for testers to hold and explore or ring the bell, admit that our concept was untenable, and move on to the next idea. And in the absence of building materials or a 3D printer ready at hand, I resorted to a skill I had never considered a strong suit: marker craft. Now look, I know that you can draw abstract birds by drawing curvy V's, but other than that, I've never been an adept illustrator. But I had 30 minutes to do the best drawing of my life, to visualize an idea as a print advertisement. And just last night, I was able to find the finished copy I shared in London with other innovators and Google engineers and designers. Now, I designed this to create that emotional connection to what I wanted my final product to be. And this version was essentially a rolling box for a device to be placed inside with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. It was enough to take the stage. And I had something to take back to California, an idea to grow and build. In development, I realized that even my original design comprised of assumptions over function. For example, the initial inclusion of a waterproof container for the device. I realized that if outdoor conditions were such that a device needed to be waterproofed, then the teacher probably didn't need to have kids outside for that lesson. The second was the inclusion of a speaker, which may end up making the device obsolete if the speaker failed or didn't connect appropriately with the device that the teacher had. I realized that more features limited the function of my project if teachers couldn't utilize it how they desired. So I scaled the design down to focus on 3 key features: portability, device friendliness, and media accessibility. After 4 months, I had a viable prototype to test on my campus. 2 separate 6th grade classes, one comprised of English language learners and the other a mild to moderate special education math class. This was very bare bones: zip ties, nylon mesh, office chair caster wheels, whatever materials I can get my hands on to build something to try out. My expectations for how the students would interact with it didn't match up with the reality, and that was a wonderful eye-opener. For starters, students benefited from the break in the indoor routine. The lesson that began inside for direct instruction then transported outside for small group work and independent practice before returning inside to summarize and conclude. And we found that that led to higher retention and objectives met. Secondly, students were told they could choose how to group and sit. I expected many clusters of small circles scattered about, but instead students self-selected to sit in a single straight line adjacent to each other, right next to each other. Third, the focus was great and intense. An 8th grader passed by attempting to sell the students chocolate for a fundraiser, and the students didn't bat an eye and continued on. Not only were they not distracted by their outdoor surroundings, they turned down candy in favor of classwork. And finally, the portability of the outsider allowed me to maneuver to small groups quickly, moving on from one group of 3 to the next within 3 seconds. So I was able to quickly gauge support and understanding from more groups more efficiently. Now, until March, things were on course. But with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the outsider suddenly had an additional benefit. With school districts facing challenges of returning to campuses safely, the consideration of outdoor learning began to take the forefront. And so, after some late adjustments based on user feedback, which drove everything I did with this project, I officially launched the Outsider in June. And the final product required the acquisition of additional hand-on skills. Guys, I know how to use a sewing machine now. It's amazing. I reconsidered the research and the materials. I started changing up what I used. I went with solar outdoor furniture fabric over mesh for shading. I went with pneumatic casters over standard indoor wheels. And suddenly, the features of the device stood out and became clear. This improved the visibility of common devices when outdoors, because one of the biggest complaints we have is you can't take a Chromebook outside and see it very clearly. This blocks out 95% of natural bleeding in sunlight and allows the screens to be more visible from further away. It also protected those devices from overheating. So not only is it a protection from damage long-term, but we know that when these overheat, they shut down. The battery, regardless, it overheats. It's a security procedure. It's safety. We also found that this helped to transport lesson materials very quickly because it fits within the standard classroom door. You just roll it from the inside to the outside, and wherever you're going for your lesson, you can pick up and begin that lesson quickly. It also is rated to hold about 200 pounds of materials, which is very helpful in case you have more things you want to bring with you. It's also helpful in the regards to how it makes the entire campus accessible. The pneumatic tires, 8-inch pneumatic casters, indoor, outdoor, all-terrain, because campuses have a variety of surfaces that you can now utilize. We also found that because it's lightweight and modular, it's easier to maneuver. The whole thing weighs in total about 13.5 pounds. And even within the classroom, we've seen that it is utilized as an alternative to teacher desks. And we know that a lot of classrooms are starting to reevaluate what's in that room due to either CDC guidelines or distancing mandates, where you need as much space as possible. And usually that means that teacher desk has to go. But this means that you can maneuver and navigate around the room with support materials very easily if that space is there. So over the course of the last year, this process has shifted away, I consider, users in solution design. As we jump into the most unique and challenging school year in nearly a century, we can breathe easier knowing that we have the best tools to tackle these challenges that humanity has ever devised. If you're here right now, it's because you have the vision to come up with solutions for where you want your impact on education to be greatest. And my challenge for all of you this year is this: reach out to more people outside of your immediate professional circle and ask for their ear. Seek that permission to pick their brains and talk their ears off. Become your user. Inhabit your user's daily struggles. designed from a core of empathy. More than any other time, we're all designers. And empathy is the currency of design. Please visit Outsider Education and follow us at Outsider EDU on Twitter to learn more about outdoor learning over the course of the year. Again, I want to thank you for being with me today, for being here a part of this amazing event. I want you to stay safe, and let's get to work.
Thank you so much, Devon. That is so great to see how you've taken that project. And when I'll admit, when I first saw your How Might We, and about how do we take the learning into outside spaces, I just thought, we do that already, isn't it? We wheel some tables out and sort of do that, and I think the way you've shown it and the way you've developed it and told that story, it's just made it so much more accessible and easy to do, and really make learning out in outside environments such an important thing, especially seeing as we've all been in lockdown for the last few months. How many of us just need to get out, and I really hope that once we do go back to school, in whichever way and format we do end up, that we take those opportunities. We're seeing school plans where everyone's going to be seated 2 meters away from each other, social distancing, within the 4 walls of the classroom. Well, guess what? Outside, there's an unlimited space out there, and I know some of the pictures and stories you've shared before on Twitter and on our chat groups, showing how your children have really benefited from those outside spaces has been really great to see and really inspiring.
It really does shift how we think about learning and education. I had a really unique opportunity about 2 years ago when I went back home to Staten Island and visited the Richmond Town Preservation. It's a historical recreation site, and there they have still in place the oldest schoolroom in America. It's called the Vorleser House. It is a basement with 4 benches and a lectern. And it struck me that so many classrooms that we still have still stick with that very same format. And so, it's an opportunity to expand what we have access to and be that fundamental shift in education without really doing all too much. Just pack up, roll, and go, and then you decide the learning environment on your terms.
Yeah, and so inspirational that that is now a thing, and it'll be an option for teachers out there. And then I really hope loads and loads of schools take up the outsider, and I can't wait for it to come to the UK. And I'm sure you're more than capable of those skills to bring that here, and whatever business deals you need to do. But I can see this going from strength to strength, which is really great to see.
Everything's global now. The world's smaller than it's ever been.
That's it, absolutely. And I think that's really important. The fact that we're here today, we've been presenting to well over 100 people online globally. I don't know, I've had nearly 200 sign-ups, and I've been looking at where people have been coming from, and I've got such an awesome Asian market which is signed up to ITjustworks, and I know most of them are probably sleeping right now, and I really look forward to them being able to watch this back. But absolutely, it'll be great to see all of our projects go global, because ultimately what I like to say is we're all doing things slightly differently depending on what region we're in, but ultimately what do? We are educators trying to bring up the skills and life experiences of the children of today, and so we're all doing it in very in slightly different ways, but ultimately the end goal is similar. And so that's what ITjustworks is also about. It's about bringing together all of those sort of differences and trying to make a sort of easy way to do things under one banner, but not a one-size-fits-all approach, because everyone's different. But at the same time, we're still trying to do similar things.
And that's the beauty of this event. You're the bridge, Abid. What you've built here, this is the start of bringing those worlds together, because we all have the same goals. I want to thank everybody who had questions in the chat that's been popping up. If I haven't answered your question, please reach out to me at Devin Rossiter. I'd love to continue that conversation, go broader. And let's make this school year the most interesting one we've ever had, for the good reasons.
And there was a question from one of our other fellow London 19 buddies, Megan Alfano, and she was saying she totally agrees with the minimalistic design is key. Do you have any thoughts on or plans on features you think might be beneficial as Outsider EDU grows?
You know, in the early days of this project, as after I've launched, the thing that stands out is how many other ideas for future models come out. You know, the first one to launch Outsider is obviously like teacher friendly. It's designed for the teacher to predominantly use. So are there student versions? Are there larger scale solutions that can come in mind? That's really going to come from just more testing, more research, more of those conversations, and more outreach. And that's not just exclusive to my conversation, but you know, the furthering conversation of outdoor learning. Because I can tell you, I'm not going to be the only one that's trying to come up with ways to make this work. People have been trying this for, you know, centuries. So the more that we have those conversations and the more tinkering we do, I think it's just going to lead to more opportunities to reevaluate what outdoor learning is, and really reevaluate the idea of just a learning space in general.
Yeah, and that is so important. And I know, you know, I think all of us have grown up, and I love that you threw out that 37 figure, and all of us suddenly start to think of our age. And you know, we've all been brought up in those four walls of the classroom, and you know, it was like the most amazing time for us when we were able to go out and enjoy that space. Well, now, you know, we can do that. We're all on mobile devices, and we've all got such great opportunities.
An interesting parallel when the designs first came around was another, you know, emotional connection that people had, because people have an emotional connection with the experience of being in a dark classroom with a projector on. That's something that's been around for decades. But something else that we also connected with is those days when they would roll the television on the cart into the classroom, and they were gasped, and we were ready. It's movie time. Can you imagine seeing this thing roll around and have it mean for students, we get to get out of here today? Just the enthusiasm and the excitement around that. There is a lot of potential there to bring that back. One of the experiences I always share with learning, which I thought was really emotional with me, was when I was in a 6th grade classroom that I taught, and I decided to shift around the seating arrangement, where I put all the desks around the walls, facing the walls, so that that's what they would look at when they would work. And that's really where they were for maybe an hour of the day. The rest of the time, they had the center floor that they could sit on or bring a chair. I gave them a choice. They would sit on the floor. They're 6th graders. They're, you know, 12, 13 years old, maybe younger than that. But I asked them, like, why would you want to sit on the floor? And they said, because it feels like kindergarten. I said, that makes you feel good? And they go, yeah, it is the last time I really loved learning. And so that idea of being, I hate to say the word boxed in because I feel like it's cliche, but the enthusiasm and width of the learning experience gets smaller and more narrow as kids get older. And I feel like it's time to shatter that reality. And this is just one piece of the puzzle that does that, then phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Devin. I think we could probably go on for ages and ages. And we did at the London Academy, isn't it?
It never stopped.
Yeah. For hours and hours on end, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And good luck to all of the VIA 20 candidates. I know you'll be finding out very, very soon, and look forward to all of you starting your own journeys. But thank you, Devin, once again. great to hear from you as always. And I think I want you keynoting every one of these events that we do, because it's so great to see you deliver.
I agree. I'll send you my rate sheet.
Absolutely. We'll get one of the sponsors to pay for you.
Hey, congratulations, Abid, on the launch. This has been a wonderful event. So seamless, very professional. I couldn't have thought of anybody else to launch this the way you have. You've got a good network and a good soul and heart, and what you've built here, you've got going for the long haul here. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Devin. Thanks. Cool. Right, guys. So we are coming towards the end of the first ever ITjustworks event, and it has been such a great event, and all of the presenters, like Shannon said, have been phenomenal, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's joined us. We have one more prize giveaway, and that is from Net Support, who have been very, very generous. The managing director of Net Support, Al Kingsley, has been really, really huge, great support to me over the last year, and he's been doing some great things. And I want to highlight the Net Support Digital Strategy Guide, which he's worked on with Mark Anderson, the ICT evangelist, and you can find it at netsupportsoftware.com/digital strategy, and it goes into really, really great detail about how you can get started with your own digital strategy in your own schools. And I know I think Dave and Peter and myself and loads of other industry experts have all collaborated together on that, and it's a really, really great document, and it's absolutely free, and it's really great to see. So definitely do check that out, netsupportsoftware.com, and also follow at Net Support Group on Twitter to be eligible for the giveaway. And that just leaves me to say thank you once again to all of our sponsors. We had C Learning, who's a Google partner, Net Support, WizKids, another Google partner, EduGeek, and then the Education Foundation, who lead on the EdTech demonstrator program. And please do, for UK schools, follow and get in touch with the EdTech demonstrator program. We'll post some useful links for that on the ITjustworks website, which is itjustworks.uk. And also thank you very much to my global GG team, without whom I couldn't have launched this project and delivered this event. I've got a huge team behind the scenes who've been handling things online here with the StreamYard, and also the Twitter chat, which was phenomenal, and we had such a great team working there helping me with all of that engagement. So thank you ever so much. Here is the magic link that I know everyone's been waiting for, and we will copy that into the chat as well. You can go to www.itjustworks.uk/feedback, or you can go to that bit.ly, which will be put into the chat. Please fill out that feedback form. I'll be ever so grateful. We take on all of the feedback and we'll use it to just improve ITjustworks even more for the future. And I can't wait to bring this to you in a similar form and in a more collaborative form, and hopefully in the future in person. But it's now the climax of what has been a fabulous year, a fabulous journey for me. I've learned so much. I've connected with so many amazing people. I just saw John Neal pop up there on the chat. John has been my mentor, who's mentored me throughout the year and given me such amazing advice. I know he mentioned pivots before. One of my biggest worries was how am I going to host this event in person and afford to pay for all of the food to feed all the attendees? I guess COVID-19 did me a favor there, but hopefully that won't be too much of a problem going forward in the future when we do eventually meet up again, and we'll have a lot more support there now that we've seen the power and the magic of what's possible with the event and with the PLN. And please do follow us. I can't say it enough. Please do follow myself on Twitter. Please follow _JustWorks on Twitter to keep up with all of the updates we do. Thank you to all of my special guests, Rachel, Daren, Ben, Peter, Dave, Stephanie, and Devon. Without you, I couldn't have delivered this launch. It's been really, really great to see. Thank you to my family, of course, and thank you everyone for watching. It's been a great event, and I cannot wait to see you all again soon. Thank you.